Hey guys, tonight we dive into the heart of the Pacific Northwest, where ancient rhythms rule and the salmon reign supreme. Imagine yourself on a misty riverbank, watching silver scales flash beneath the cedar canopy. You might think this is just another nature escape, but you probably won't survive this without some serious culture shock. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment, tell me where you are and what time it is. Let's create this moment together. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey. As the first rays of dawn paint the sky with hues of lavender and amber, you find yourself standing on the edge of a forest thick with stories. The air carries the earthy scent of moss and the faint whisper of spruce, needles rustling beneath an unseen breeze. The Tlingit people, for centuries, have danced in harmony with these rhythms of nature, bound to the Pacific's heartbeat through its most resilient messengers, the salmon. Here, in the land of glaciers and eagles, life doesn't just adapt to seasonal shifts, it syncs with them like a finely tuned instrument. From the moment you step foot on this damp ground, you can feel the pulse of ancient cycles, each carving its mark on the community. Historical fact: did you know that the Tlingit people have thrived in the coastal Pacific Northwest for over 10,000 years? Their presence predates some of the earliest known civilizations. Think back to when the pyramids of Giza were still a twinkle in Pharaoh's eye. Winter slinks through the village, bringing long nights and whispered stories around firelit lodges. Each breath forms tiny clouds that float away into the frigid dawn, and the sky feels close enough to touch. It's during these chilly months that the carvers find their rhythm. Hands that once navigated summer forests now work the wood with renewed precision. Fingers nimbly guide chisels, coaxing spirits trapped in timber to emerge, just as their ancestors carved these same patterns for millennia. But let's not kid ourselves. If you think surviving in the Alaska Pacific coast is all romantic canoe rides and berry picking, think again. The winters bite harder than some of Grandma's critiques. As daylight stretches again with the arrival of spring, a subtle shift occurs, one that modern calendars might overlook. The tide's pull changes. The moon's whispers grow slightly louder. Tlingit elders, whose eyes have seen 70 summers, can feel it in their bones. The migration season is on its way. This is when the salmon, driven by ages-old instincts and cosmic tides, begin their arduous upstream journey. Fringe tidbit: some Tlingit storytellers maintain that the salmon know the ancestral pathways, following the same cosmic maps that guide the constellations. Imagine fish as celestial travelers, their journey traced by moon phases only old folks could read. But these aren't just migration stories. Each scale, fin, and leap carries whispers of debates long since turned to legend. Historians still argue whether it was the salmon's instinct or ancient maritime navigators' wisdom that first unlocked these riverine pathways. While we might imagine the fish as mere wanderers, Tlingit beliefs held that each creature's return was as intentional as a pilgrim's path to Mecca. Your feet tread the damp earth of these coastal trails, your eyes following the shimmering paths where the salmon glide. You peer into the river as fish dart beneath the surface, their journey mirrored in the silver dance of willow branches overhead. The carvers, they say, can feel the tides, almost like an extension of their senses, a pulse beat synced between the ocean and their chisels. Midday sun shifts patterns on the water, and you spot totems rising from the fog, their features etched in time. Some might say these carvings have eyes that track your journey, their expressions telling tales only the initiated comprehend. Open debate. Scholars have long debated whether the facial features on these totems have evolved through centuries, or were, in fact, stylized representations of clan ancestors. Could it be that these poles have always watched over the travelers, guiding them through the maze of legends? Autumn whispers arrive, with the crisp scent of decaying leaves mixing into the rich aroma of impending harvest. This is a time of both preparation and celebration, where the community bands together, and the sound of drums echoes far into the night. Each drumbeat, a pulse echoing the rhythm of the migrating salmon, beats against the twilight, guiding spirits home as surely as birds know their migratory routes. Carvers' hands move with practiced ease, now working cedar slabs, each incision a blend of tradition and instinct. Each stroke pulls strength from the winds, the waters, and those migratory souls fighting the currents upstream. As you wander through these forest paths, shadowed by centuries, you notice how each step seems to carry weight, the weight of those before you, whose lives were tied intimately to the tides guiding their hands, and the fish guiding their spirits. You begin to grasp that each season's turn isn't just the earth's change, but a living library of rhythms, guiding every move, every breath. Tlingit carvers don't just work with wood, they craft legacies, syncing life's cycles with the salmon's swim. So here you stand, in time and place, feeling a kinship not just with the craft, but with the cycles that shaped generations, all dictated by nature's most relentless patterns. With dusk painting the sky in deeper shades, the river seems to sigh, carrying both the weight of history and the promise of stories yet to be told. And maybe, just maybe, you'll catch sight of old ancestors, hands carving tales long before the clock existed, each stroke an echo, each fish a guide through the seasons they both embraced and tamed. Beneath the sheltering branches of ancient cedars, you sense a pulse, an unseen rhythm threading through Tlingit existence. Salmon aren't just a food source. These sinuous travelers stitch together the very fabric of Northwest coast culture. Historians still argue whether it was the salmon's migration that first mapped human settlements, or if the people followed the towering trees, whispered secrets. Each fall, you would notice how the river swells not with water alone, but with stories. Did you know that some indigenous legends claim salmon carry ancestral spirits, while scientists attribute their navigation to geomagnetic fields? Elders whisper of the fish sensing family lineages. Skeptics might scoff until you've seen how a single returning salmon can send hundreds of Tlingit hearts pounding in anticipation. Carvings on totems become palimpsests, layered tailies of both fish and people, drawn irresistibly toward home. You trace your fingers over a raven's beak, remembering its role as trickster, who first released salmon from a hidden basket, gifting them to humanity. But let's digress a moment. Did you know that some researchers claim the raven's black feathers signify their role as celestial couriers between light and dark worlds? Fringe, perhaps, but imagine how that changes a simple chisel stroke. Craftsmen find in the salmon's life cycle a blueprint for timing their work. Spring's first thaw signals not just ice melt, it brings the returning fish who taught ancient people to follow natural clocks, moon phases, spawning tides, celestial alignments. You lean against a pole, feeling the cold cedar seep through your jacket. It's said that skilled carvers would finish major projects when salmon scales glinted on river surfaces, ensuring their works carried those migrating energies. As you watch the river shimmer, a question arises. Can woodgrain really hold migratory echoes? Dismiss folklore at your peril. Tlingit carvers maintain that salmon blood imbues their tools. Each knife stroke a conversation between chisel and tide. Modern archaeologists debate whether ceremonial hammers had chips from meteorites, believing ancient craftsmen's claims of metal that remembered stars. Now, that's a quirky piece of history to file away. Historians still argue whether some coastal clans mapped territory according to salmon lineage more than political boundaries. The idea is that tribal divisions aligned with watershed zones, prioritizing fish routes over land divisions. Skepticism aside, imagine the implications. Every canoe journey mirrored not just migration paths, but kinship networks written in the water. You think of your own travels. Did we ever truly detach from such elemental guidance? While walking along muddy shores, you spot an old fish trap, an ordinary sight. Except this one stands directly in line with the summer solstice sunset. Coincidence? Some researchers believe ancient engineers possessed sophisticated astro-mapping skills, far more advanced than credited. But let's not get too carried away. Or maybe not. Next time you sketch a wave pattern, consider if it's really you at the helm, or the currents guiding your hand. In the shadows of these coastal forests, you can almost hear time itself migrate, flowing between tides, trees, and carving strokes. The salmon brought people here. Now their rhythms ripple into every pole and plank. Under a darkening sky, you wonder what ancestral currents shape your own journey. and how those invisible tides might carve stories of their own. You stand beneath a darkening sky, contemplating the intersection of invisible tides and crafted stories. The moon begins its ascent, casting silvery paths across the restless waters. Here, time flows differently, marked not by clocks, but by celestial rhythms and nature's own calendar. You let the cool night air brush your face as the realization dawns. Even modern life can't escape these ancient measures. Did you know that many indigenous societies relied on lunar cycles to synchronize planting and harvesting seasons, while our digital calendars govern us now? Historians still argue whether the moon's phases once dictated global agricultural patterns. Imagine gazing at a full moon and knowing it heralded the precise moment to carve new totems, its light illuminating work sites with a purpose far beyond mere visibility. Some elders whisper that silver glow contains properties that infuse carvings with spiritual energy, fringe, perhaps, but compelling. You can't help but laugh at how our ancestors would have thought us hopelessly lost without such signals. Yet here we are, navigating by satellites instead of stars. As the shoreline meets the darkening sea, you see not just a horizon, you perceive a cosmic clock. The Tlingit carvers found in moon phases more than temporal markers. They were cosmic conductors. Each sliver and crescent pulled them into rhythm with natural cycles. You may chuckle at the thought of synchronizing your dentist appointment to the lunar calendar. But consider, don't we still mark major life events, weddings, births, even stock market surges, by aligning ourselves with favorable moments? Take the gravitational pull. It's an actual tidal force, moving oceans and moods alike. You recall old sailors' wives' tales that accused the moon of stirring not just waters, but tempers too. Fringe belief, maybe, yet when you notice your own impatience rising precisely when a full moon illuminates the sky, you ponder the ancients' wisdom anew. Historians still argue whether the moon's phases influenced social behavior patterns before electric lighting erased such distinctions. Some researchers delve into even quirkier dimensions, claiming certain meteorite impacts could have altered lunar cycles eons ago, thus recalibrating Earth's gravitational dance. Though largely speculative, the thought injects a note of whimsy. Imagine ancient carvers adjusting work hours because a space rock nudged their celestial clock. It's strangely comforting, the notion that cosmic events so far beyond our grasp could have once shaped our immediate earthly tasks. In quiet moments spent tracing woodgrain, you recognize a lineage of timekeepers, those whose lives pivoted around the predictable rise and settle of tides. Modern obsessions with punctuality seem almost comical against this backdrop. Think about how a missed train in Tokyo prompts angst, whereas ancient Tlingit carvers aligned their labor with natural cycles, tides, and totems in harmony, not bound by mechanical time. They existed within a living, breathing clock that synchronized their lives like notes in a vast, oceanic symphony. As moonlight bathes the cedar poles, you comprehend how lunar cycles do more than push and pull the seas. They steer human endeavors too. Maybe the idea of carving by moonlight isn't so fanciful. Imagine the serene focus, the silvered wood guiding hand and heart alike. Such thoughts make you reconsider every calendar app you've ever relied upon. Is our modern urgency really liberating, or just a disconnect from an ancient alliance between sky and hand? Underneath the moon's gaze, you see that the ocean's rhythms remain an unyielding metronome. Here, time doesn't just pass, it flows and ebbs, much like the waters shaping these carvings. The tides pull and push, reminding us that some forces retain their authority despite our digital distractions. Perhaps it's time to glance upwards more often, not just to appreciate the celestial show, but to recalibrate our own journeys with the invisible pull of ancient forces. You ponder the implications. If even the moon can steer the waters we navigate, what other cosmic clockwork might still be shaping our unseen paths? The thought lingers like the fading moonlight, hinting that maybe, just maybe, we're all a little more guided by those celestial hands than modern maps care to admit. The whispers of coastal breezes carry more than just salty air. They bear the murmurs of old truths. Ancient mariners swore the ocean's breath could reveal safe passages, while fringe marine archaeologists claim that old shipwrecks can emit acoustic anomalies, a form of underwater Morse code from the past. Historians still argue whether these sounds were intentional distress signals or mere side effects of hull decay. You find yourself standing at nature's ancient amphitheater, where every wave is a syllable in a timeless narrative. The Tlingit Carvers once stood here, ears attuned to the sea's cadence. The rhythm of breakers hitting rocky shores was their metronome, setting the pace for meticulous carving sessions. How poetic that something as seemingly chaotic as ocean waves could guide hands toward intricate patterns and symbolic forms. The tides aren't just movements of water but living narrators, sharing stories through every swash and break. Remember that old sailor's tale about tides influencing decision-making, causing both shipwrecks and fortunes found. That maritime wisdom has a quirky echo in today's world. Some coastal towns swear that during high tides, local businesses see a noticeable uptick in productivity and morale. Who would have guessed that Neptune's breath could double as a morale booster? Waves whispering secrets aren't always benign. During the age of exploration, mariners charted courses by listening for subtle changes in wave rhythm, which sometimes revealed hidden dangers like submerged rocks or the deceptive shallows of sandbars. Imagine the thrill and peril, navigating by auditory signals invisible to the naked eye. Historians still argue whether these audible maps led to as many discoveries as they did disastrous wrecks. As you lean into the coastal breeze, you catch fragments of the tales carried by tides, the stories of returning salmon, whose migration signals the turning of another cycle. Those silver fish, slicing through currents, are nature's own chronometers. You can almost hear ancestral voices whispering how the salmon's cyclical journeys paralleled the phases of the moon, anchoring the Tlingit's own cycles of work and life. Talk about multitasking fish. Not only do they nourish bodies, but they also synchronize time itself. Experts think migration patterns follow geomagnetic fields, guiding salmon unerringly to natal streams. Sounds fringe, right? But then, scientists have isolated proteins in salmon that respond to magnetic fields, adding credence to these aquatic marvels' built-in navigation systems. Just picture a fish brain using Earth's magnetic signature as an ancient mariner used the stars. Mind-blowing, isn't it? Some speculate that other marine species, from sea turtles to humpback whales, might navigate using similar magnetic maps. It's a debate as old as Poseidon himself. Historians still argue whether early humans watched migratory patterns of different sea creatures to refine their own navigation techniques. Who knows? Perhaps your ancestors were practicing amateur oceanography long before we had words for it. As the waves pull back in syncopated rhythms, you feel a connection to ancient wisdom. The ocean's pulse whispers guidance more profound than any GPS signal. Modern technology offers unparalleled precision, but there's something humbling in leaning back into nature's own navigational aids, the kind that once led salmon and carvers alike to their destinies. The sea's secrets, preserved in each wave's crash, teach that some things, like aligning life's own currents with nature's steady metronome, are timeless guides for souls willing to listen. You await the salmon's arrival, guided by the whispers of coastal winds. The air turns brisk, and you feel winter breathing through fir branches. Ancient sailors used to read the weather by watching birds and clouds, nature's own forecast. Ever heard of the woolly worm theory? Some country folk believe caterpillars can predict upcoming snow if their bands are thick. Maybe nature has weather apps of its own. As the winds shift direction, they bring tales of approaching fish. Historians still argue whether Vikings used wind patterns to navigate, or if they relied more on star maps. Imagine being lost at sea, only a breeze to guide you. Would you trust that invisible hand? As the wind shifts, it doesn't just promise the salmon's return, it murmurs ancestral secrets about timing and patience. You stand in that coastal amphitheater, feeling how winter's breath cools the ground. Experts think even the Inuit had elaborate wind lore, using subtle changes in air currents to predict weather shifts. Makes modern meteorologists seem a bit less high-tech, doesn't it? That breeze you feel, was it just a gust, or nature's ancient voice speaking again? Each breath of wind carries the promise of salmon gliding under the water's surface. The Tlingit carvers once stood exactly where you stand, interpreting these whispers to plan their cycles of work. They'd know these people synchronized their lives with seasonal shifts so seamlessly it would make even Google Calendar jealous. Timing is everything, and nature's voice always delivers the most reliable reminders. Picture this: a Tlingit carver, axe in hand, feels the chill in their bones as winter whispers. They don't need watches. The wind's rhythm is their metronome. Modern life sometimes disconnects us from these cues, but the carvers lived in perfect sync with nature's timepieces. Maybe that's why their art remains so timeless. Every stroke was a pulse in nature's own symphony. The debate about human attunement to natural rhythms extends to modern science too. Scholars argue whether this was an evolutionarily ingrained trait or simply trial and error survival. What if our ancestors were the original biohackers, aligning life patterns to nature's cycles in ways we're just rediscovering? Historians still argue whether ancient knowledge was pure wisdom or survival-driven intuition. But standing here, under this same wind, the difference seems trivial. Salmon follow ocean paths etched in their very genes. Scientists believe that even the moon's phases guide their journeys, a lunar lighthouse leading them home. Who knew a fish brain could be more cosmically aware than us? As winter's breath sharpens, you anticipate the shimmering flanks of returning fish. Their migration synchronizes not only the Tlingit cycles, but the very essence of the coastal universe. How poetic, all aligned by a mere zephyr. Carvers once believed that the spirit of the wind guided their chisels. Imagine that, attributing each precise cut not to skill, but to nature's whispering breath. Maybe there's something to that. We underestimate how ambient cues influence even our most calculated actions. Just listen to the wind now. Can you sense that timeless rhythm urging you to readiness? Standing here, you realize the carver's wisdom resonates across centuries. The breeze's soft caress isn't just a hint of winter, but a reminder of life's interconnected dance with nature's elements. Some ancient cultures even believed air could carry souls. Ever heard of breath of life stories? Different traditions interpret that vital wind as everything from God's whispers to ancestor echoes. The winter's whisper is nature's own metronome now, urging anticipation. Salmon are navigators of the seas, while Tlingit carvers are navigators of wood, both guided by the invisible symphony of air currents. It's humbling, our reliance on electronics, while these ancient hands relied on air. Nature always remains the most reliable guide. Standing at the cusp of winter's breath, you see the salmon's journey isn't just a migration. It's an ancient rite, a reweaving of the seasonal fabric. Historians still argue whether such ancient wisdom was survival instinct or mystical foresight. But really, is there much difference between the two when nature is guiding both? The wind sings through evergreens, a silent yet palpable guide. The same winds you feel once pushed ancestral spirits to begin their carving sessions. How they must have marveled at the fish's journey, those glistening migrants, following invisible maps, a sight to reignite cold limbs and spark new art. There's power in that alignment. Each gust brings stories of salmon tides swelling with destiny. The wind might seem an intangible force now, but think of every boat launched, tent pitched, or fire started using these natural signals. That breeze is not merely air, it's a library of stories, each whisper carrying volumes of ancestral memory. A lesson in synchronicity, perhaps one we've lost in our rush to digital. And here you are, drawn by the wind to the promise of returning fish. What a beautiful balance, how nature's breath could dictate such intricate human actions. You might chuckle at the thought, moderns obsessed with their gadgets. But here we are, listening to the winds like true sailors once did. Maybe there's something comforting, even poetic about it. So you stand at the precipice of change, winter beckoning the fish, and their journeys pull tightening through your veins. In every cool breath, you feel ancestral echoes, hands carving rhythms dictated by nature's breath. It's a timeless ballet, choreographed by the whispers of wind and the tides themselves. As you await the salmon's return, guided by nature's ancient metronome, think about the layers of connection and rhythm you've uncovered. The wind, the fish, the carver's hand, all instruments in this vast, natural symphony. Who knew our lives could be so beautifully synchronized to nature's invisible pulses? Histories, debates, and fringe theories fade into the background as you stand here. The real question remains, will you tune in, letting nature's whispers guide you as they did the carvers before? The winter breath promises that timeless secrets still live, just waiting to align your spirit with nature's eternal clock. Winter's breath chills the air as you step toward the waters, ready for nature's rhythmic call to lead you into new discoveries. The anticipation buzzes in your veins, a mixture of awe and readiness, as ancient and present as the wind itself. The breath of winter isn't just a mere gust, it's a guiding hand whispering through millennia. Shadows stretch long, cast by low winter sun angles. The seasonal change subtly shifts how the world feels beneath your carving knife. Woodgrain even seems to whisper differently. Experts think ancient Greeks used long shadows to mark the winter solstice, a tradition carried forward in places like Stonehenge. Ever tried cloud clocking? Before weather satellites, some cultures guessed the time of day based on cloud shapes. Maybe there's more timekeeping genius in the sky above than we realize. You work by moonlight now, shadows playing tricks in silvered pools of light. Did you know Inuit legends speak of moon spirits guiding night travelers? While modern explorers depend on GPS, there's a poetic charm in following celestial signposts. Historians still argue whether medieval European cathedrals were aligned with the lunar calendar or sun cycles. Such cosmic dances, were they acts of devotion or primitive science? Perhaps the answer swirls In those very shadows, the cycle of seasons brings profound shifts, almost as if time itself slows under winter's gaze. Carved totems stand like silent sentinels, their stories deepened by encroaching night. You wonder if olden times felt these shadows as living presences, not just absences of light. Did ancient Egyptians view evening shadows as divine veils, hiding gods between sun and night? Some fringe lore suggests that early sailors navigated using shadow angles long before the sextant's invention. Imagine reading your course not from stars, but shade depths. Even moonrise brings new revelations. As evening ebbs, you trace designs illuminated only by Luna's glow, feeling the Carvers' ancient pulse beneath your fingers. The night sky isn't just a ceiling, it's a canvas. Stars might seem constant, but in truth, their tiny shifts across millennia paint the real eternal dance. That's why Polynesian navigators relied on constellations. Stars were their maps. What if we've undervalued the tales shadows can tell? While daylight rushes, shadows remind us of time's fluid breath. Historians ponder whether Stonehenge's alignment celebrated life cycles or celestial events. But underneath such mystery lies an undeniable truth. People watched skies with a depth of inquiry even modern science tries to match. Perhaps the answer is more poetic, that monuments honor not just time, but humanity's quest to understand it. Who needs wall clocks when each shadow's length feels like nature itself is keeping tally? Moon shadows stretch and contort the world as you carve beneath their watchful gaze. Your ancestors likely shared this same moonlit vigil, using natural cycles to synchronize their every stroke. Maybe that's why totem carvings bear such lifelike vitality, etched not only with hands, but with the very breath of these living elements. Modern life often isolates us from such rhythms, but stepping back into ancient choreography reveals connections we've long underestimated. You realize how this slow dance of light and dark shapes not just your art, but your very sense of time's passage. Shadows become more than mere absence. They transform into cosmic reminders of cycles, echoing with ancestral voices. Did Mayan priests divine secrets from pyramid shadows? That interplay between light and dark could reveal hidden knowledge we've only begun to re-explore. As you carve beneath the moon's glow, feel that same ancient rhythm syncing once more with your pulse. Every chisel's strike now resonates with millennia of wisdom, tools guided as much by shadows pull as by steady hands. Historians might argue if early observatories tracked comets or celestial order. But in this lunar-lit forest, those debates seem quaint. Whether gods, science, or mere survival, here nature's timekeepers still whisper through every shifting shade. You work guided by shadows, aware ancient wisdom pulses with modern purpose. In this moon-bathed workspace, time's fabric weaves from both light and shadow, reminding you how deeply intertwined human endeavor remains with celestial clocks, stars mapped shadows measured, these ancient dances compose our lives' silent symphonies. Whether guided by gods or science, it seems our ancestors grasped nature's deeper harmonies, leaving us trails to rediscover through every carved detail we dare create anew. You carve now, feeling not just the grain against your tool, but each shadow's touch across centuries, guiding new hands with olden rhythms. Moon shadows stretch their lengthening, a reminder that cycles continue, whether marked by chisel or celestial body. As you finish another piece, the world feels just a bit more in sync, as if your own rhythm aligns with that vast cosmic ballet. No clock ticks needed here, when each shadow holds centuries of wisdom. And so, you carve beneath the moon's watchful glint, aware that each completed stroke not only immortalizes tales in wood, but reconnects your own breath with those ancient, shadowed whispers. Through stories etched and shadows cast, you discover that time itself moves with a gentlest hum, its melody carried not just by clocks or constellations, but by the timeless interplay of light and dark. On every carved surface you dare touch, carved totems speak through generations, their faces touched by every moon that ever rose. But rivers are storytellers too, each current carrying whispers from mountains to oceans. You know how Tlingit carvers see these waterways as more than just routes for salmon, their life's very veins. Did you know some cultures believed rivers were divine paths trodden by gods? For instance, Egyptians thought their Nile housed the goddess Happy, a bringer of life. Imagine working your craft while believing the very riverbed pulsed with divinity beneath your feet. No wonder ancient Egyptians marked their great monuments along its banks. You trace patterns in woodgrain, thinking how each swirl mirrors the river's twists. Your tools meet wood, and though you carve in silence, you can almost hear that distant river's song. Historians still argue whether Stonehenge was aligned with solstices or river cycles. Maybe ancient people knew secrets in waterways we've forgotten. Perhaps their monuments honored liquid paths rather than solid ground. Remember those Inuit moon myths? Maybe rivers guided them too, by moonlight's glow. Carving under such knowledge, you feel connected to that ancestral spirit. Some traditions claimed rivers held spirits of ancestors themselves, with every ripple touching past, present, and future at once. That adds weight to every stroke, doesn't it? Did you know some cultures used river reflections as mirrors for divination? Carve in that light, thinking how Tlingit hands once read life's currents in these shimmering surfaces. As you finish another piece, the river's pulse seems to beat alongside your own. Whether a god's pathway, divination mirror, or storyteller, water's narrative flows through every carved symbol beneath your fingers. Tlingit carvers speak of rivers as life givers, guiding fish that feed communities. Your hands echo their reverence. Ever heard of river dreams? Some traditions claim sleeping near waterways reveals ancestral messages. Next time you carve, maybe leave a window open. Let ancient rivers weave through your wood, currents blending with your chisel's song. Each carved face you create speaks of flowing life. Maybe early Greeks even sensed this, aligning temples near waterways. While we often look skyward, perhaps we should cast our eyes to rivers, just as often those life-bearers that carve landscapes and lives alike. Your strokes echo their ripples, with each piece carrying whispers from mountains through time's cascade. You stand by imagined rivers, wood beneath your fingers alive with water. Some say ancient druids cast branches into rivers to seek the future. Imagine a wooden talisman drifting away, leaving your fate in flowing hands. Today you carve your messages directly in wood, but maybe there's power in offering pieces to the river too. Let currents carry what shadows cannot. Wood meets blade, river paths weaving themselves into designs. As you carve, ancient paths and modern echoes blend. Those who studied Stonehenge's rivers might claim its stones were messages adrift. Every completed totem might be a story afloat, riding toward oceans, carrying ancient wisdom and new beginnings alike. Through the touch of carvers tuned to nature's heartbeat, your strokes now reflect both river paths and moon shadows. Some ancient practices marked river paths with totemic carvings, turning current into art and art into pathways. Maybe our ancestors believed carving created safe passages for river spirits to flow alongside fish. Imagine leaving your own messages, carried on ripples, each carved wave a beacon of stories untold downriver. You finish with a flourish, feeling rivers more than just waterways, but carriers of time itself. Whether divine paths or spiritual guides, rivers etch life's map as clearly as your totems mark ancestral trails. Each river's turn, each chisel's kiss, wood and water converge into a symphony that transcends time, marked by currents and carvers alike in an eternal dance. Beneath moonlight, under spirits gaze, your stories flow as rivers carry dreams downstream. You step into the forest's embrace, where ancient trees whisper secrets through rustling leaves. Tlingit carvers see woodlands not just as timber sources, but as living libraries, each tree a chapter bearing ancestral knowledge. You brush fingertips against rough bark, feeling their wisdom beneath your touch. Ever notice how some trees seem wise beyond age? The ginkgo biloba has persisted almost unchanged for millions of years. Imagine those Tlingit elders selecting a tree for carving, each chosen for its stories etched into rings. Ginkgos might have even survived Ice Age winters, their steadfast trunks echoing through time. Your tools connect with wood, each chip revealing tales buried in layers. Historians still argue whether Stonehenge builders used you, wood. Did druids carve their secrets into ancient forests? Modern yews still stand, silent witnesses, while you carve the past into the present. Each stroke whispers what tree spirits reveal through ages, their voices mingling with yours. In Tlingit lore, trees aren't just wood. Some believe they hold souls of ancestors. Imagine the responsibility Tlingit carvers felt, honoring beings in each plank. Even quirky traditions held this reverence. Some cultures buried infants under tree roots for protection. Maybe that rooted strength inspired what you now carve. Imbued with ancient safeguarding spirits, carve beneath moonlight, your reflections split between tree trunks. You recall druids' rituals, how they spoke to oaks as elders. Historians debate whether those whispers shaped modern tree symbolism. In your hands, every cut resonates with voices of those who leaned on trees for counsel, their wisdom flowing through grain and giving depth to your narrative. Tlingit carvers used forest gifts as more than material. Bark became insulation. Leaves brought medicine. Every carving is a tribute to trees' multifaceted generosity. Did you know some cultures considered birch bark nature's paper? Even the trees you select carry ancestral teachings in every fiber, each etching a testament to woodland symbiosis. Here, ancient groves echo with mythical songs. Trees served as temples in olden rituals, where whispers in sacred woods were heard by spirits above. Some traditions claim tree roots connected worlds, their branches touching realms we've yet to glimpse. Your hands honor past carvers, those who channeled such beliefs into every carving, blending earthly roots with spiritual ascent. Let your hands rest on trunk ridges, as ancient carvers would. Historians ponder whether early shamans used tree carvings as maps for spiritual journeying. The wood beneath your fingers feels like it's transmitting that wisdom, each cut becoming a passage into unknown dimensions, echoing Tlingit spirits' journeys between reality and lore. Step back to admire your work, a story carved into a slice of forest. You consider how Tlingit ancestors saw carvings as living memorials, each notch a heartbeat of those who came before. Some traditions say certain trees have voices, waiting for the right carver to unlock their tale. Perhaps in your completed piece, ancient whispers of ancestors find a new voice, their songs echoing through time, and wood in harmonious unity beneath celestial guidance. You look skyward, where stars twinkle like scattered diamonds against the velvet night. The Tlingit carvers found destiny not just in wood, but in the heavens map. You trace constellations, those celestial guides that have steered mariners and artists alike. Orion's belt might have directed ancient sailors, but what patterns did Tlingit eyes follow? Some believe the stars spoke in a language of light. Polaris, the North Star, has long been a reliable compass. Did Tlingit carvers use its steadiness to stabilize their creations? Imagine chiseling by moonlight, aligning carvings with constellations that seemed ready to whisper old mariners' secrets. Historians still argue whether constellations shaped societal roles. As you steady your tools beneath a canopy of stars, consider that in olden times, the moon served as a calendar. Lunar phases guided not only tides, but also the rhythms of daily life. Could moonlight have influenced when carvers began their work. Full moons might have lit work sites, casting shadows that deepened the stories being carved. Some fringe theories even suggest moonlight influenced the carving's symbolism, making lunar cycles a quiet partner in artistic creation. You glance between your tools and the glowing Milky Way. Experts think ancient cultures used star positions to predict seasons. For Tlingit artisans, those shifts guided not just their work schedules, but the very stories they chose to carve. Perhaps the arrival of the Pleiades signaled when it was time to memorialize tribal histories. Or perhaps the Big Dipper's low arc foretold a season of new creative beginnings. Carving beneath stars felt like participating in a cosmic dance. Stars above, tides below, carvers in the center, interpreting celestial rhythms through their tools. Did you know that some ancient peoples performed stargazing rituals before starting major projects? Maybe Tlingit carvers conducted a quick ritual to the evening sky before setting hand to wood, feeling the cosmos' permission granted with each chisel strike. Each star you peer at tonight holds ancient possibilities. Picture carvers looking up, each constellation a compass needle pointing to ancestral histories. They probably didn't just see random patterns, but living maps of their people's narratives, much like you might feel guided by a beloved book's pages. The cosmos was their storybook, each celestial body an illuminated letter in an infinite manuscript. You move your chisel, feeling connected to this age-old synergy. In those quiet nights, when carving met celestial observation, time itself seemed to still. Tlingit artisans might have believed that stars not only guided the hand, but also inspired the soul, illuminating both path and purpose. Some quirky tales even suggest that particularly bright comets could redirect an entire year's worth of creative projects. Historians still argue whether specific constellations held prophetic importance. Some think the eagle cluster might have been a patron spirit, its wings spanning generations. You study its position now, pondering if that's why eagle motifs appear so frequently in carvings. Perhaps those feathered symbols emerged from nights just like this, where tools and stars conspired to tell the same story. Each cut into wood is now a dialogue with the heavens. You feel a pull from both constellations above and carvers below, bridging past with present. Maybe that same celestial connection once inspired the intricate totems, their designs a mirror of cosmic landscapes. As you continue, every chip carries whispers of those ancestral conversations, preserved in grain and guided by stars. With this final stroke, you step back, allowing your eyes to rove stars again. Here, beneath their ancient light, Tlingit carvers found harmony. Their creations echoed celestial architecture, each star a guiding point, each constellation a co-author in cultural narratives. Your hands rest, feeling the depth of that age-old connection. The cosmos whispering through both wood and night. You feel the connection not just to the wood and the stars, but to another realm entirely, the sky. The Tlingit carvers believed that the great eagles soaring above carried whispers of wisdom from spirit worlds. You tilt your head up, squinting against the dawn light that barely dims their majestic flight. They must see lands most people only dream of. In those high altitudes where eagles glide, you sense a different kind of guidance. The Tlingit people saw these magnificent birds not just as creatures, but as messengers. Their keen eyesight and graceful movements weaving together earth and sky. Imagine yourself perched atop a mountain, the eagle's shadow passing over you, carving tools in tow. Historians still argue whether early cultures believed animals could communicate directly with the divine. The story says eagles provided more than just inspiration. They delivered critical knowledge. Some tribal elders assert that when carving ceremonial totems, an eagle's flight path could symbolize the trajectory for a carving's design. If an eagle dipped low, perhaps it was signaling which way to tilt a tool, which curve to amplify. Imagine pausing mid-carve, staring skyward, waiting for an eagle's dive to clarify a contour. These majestic birds ruled more than just the skies. It's a quirky fact, often overlooked, that Tlingit carvers would even mimic eagles' hunting techniques. You picture a carver standing with intense focus, the way an eagle locks on prey. That stillness holds meaning. Sharp eyes see details missed in haste. The next chisel press becomes more deliberate, each line carrying the patience and purpose of the eagle spirit. There's an enduring belief that these great hunters didn't just represent freedom. Each feather caught in the sky carried an ancestral whisper. When you glance at the eagle, could you see the reflections of ancient carvers in its eyes? That belief in shared vision linked not just species, but epochs, each soaring eagle a bridge between time's peaks. As your own tools move, you might find yourself tilting your head just a fraction, imagining an eagle's dive in those arcs. The Tlingit found an unexpected balance here between their earthly craft and the sky's open canvas. Some experts think ancient carvers' reverence for eagles might have even extended to incorporating eagle feathers in their carvings. Imagine carefully placing those precious plumes, each feather symbolizing both flight and connection. And you can't ignore the playful side of these interactions. Legend has it that children would sneak onto carvers' porch hoping to spot that perfect feather. Imagine trying to concentrate, the occasional rustle of giggles giving away a child's hiding spot. Focus, my young one. You can hear a carver whisper, a wink hiding their amusement. The debate continues. Were eagles sacred guides or mere inspiration? Did they hold wisdom as some old folklore suggests? The argument among academics simmers, some suggesting eagle behavior influenced not just artistic designs, but even the moral codes of the tribe. As you etch your next line, consider how those airborne creatures might be whispering, even now, secrets only the patient can catch. Your own carves might feel lighter, freed by the thought of high-flying guides. Maybe that swift movement you just captured was indeed an eagle's advice. Go swiftly, but look deeply. Each stroke becomes a conversation, drawing from skies above and ancestral depths. Historians still argue whether animals held prophetic roles, but for you, the connection feels evident. You pause, watching an eagle bank gracefully against the emerging sun. Perhaps these carvers believed in a cosmic dance between sky and earth, tools guided by flights, wings shadowing wood. What wisdom carried in that silent arc? What messages in those flapping wings? The eagle swoops once more, carving a path through morning mist, showing you the way even in this quiet, reflective moment. You stand at the base of the mountain as the eagle's shadow fades, moving inward rather than upward, letting the earth sing through toes, pressing into ancient soil. Historians still argue whether the Tlingit considered family ties the cornerstone of a carver's skill. Ancestral hands guided not just through memory, but through physical, lingering presence. You can almost feel a ghost's warm fingertips upon your shoulder, steadying your swing. A carver's tools might seem like mere instruments, but imagine them as extensions of familial spirits. Each chip, each stroke an echo of past strokes. Ancestors murmur through the grain. You remember grandmother's stories, words that seeped into wood alongside your first unsteady cuts. Never separate your skill from your family line, she'd whisper, as hands shaped stories from driftwood. Those stories continue to be whispered through your very actions. In the dim light of a family hearth, you watch generations of carvers at work. Some say a young apprentice's hands would be guided directly by an elder, a concept called spirit carving. Skeptics laugh, but the sense of precision, a memory muscle, persists. Historians scoff, but isn't that lingering guidance why your carves sometimes align impossibly well with ancient forms? Your own father's calluses seem to imprint themselves onto your palms through the sheer force of memory. Family trees on the Tlingit's northwest coast had a literal carving. The cedar absorbed not just skill, but memory, saplings becoming totems, absorbing generational wisdom. You can feel this as you grip the chisel. The wood seems to exhale, pushing back stories of resilience, of familial duty. Each tap of the mallet isn't just shaping the object, but is a conversation with forebears. You're not alone here. Spirits of ancestors surround, sharing their subtlest lessons with every shaving of bark. And while it's commonly known that totems were family-oriented records, some fringe historians suggest carving was a form of familial ritual more akin to a seance. You might find it amusing to imagine a carver carving the past tense into the future, calling spirits to their tools, one flake at a time. Historians still argue whether ancestor spirits truly guided the carver's hand, or if it was all skilled technique. You laugh softly. Maybe old Uncle Arvin, with his exaggerated tailies, wasn't as lost in fantasy as they thought. Legend has it, he could replicate carvings with uncanny precision by just holding them in his hands and closing his eyes, claiming spirits etched the designs through him. The image of him claiming to channel his great-grandfather, while everyone just sipped tea, still tugs a chuckle from you. But the humor dissolves with your next chisel strike. This is serious craft. Your uncle's tailies were less fanciful, more a testament to something beyond visible. Elders would say every scar and knot in the wood became a roadmap for these ancestral guides, a hidden dialogue. Carving, then, is less an act of creation and more one of translation. You feel a shiver, as if a spectral breeze runs through your blood. That's not just a story. It's a reality threading through muscle and memory. The Tlingit people had a unique respect for the elders guiding younger apprentices. This wasn't just about passing skills. Some oral traditions assert that the transfer of carving techniques was believed to strengthen bloodlines, literally. A quirk, perhaps, but fascinating. Each intricate raven carved into a totem could weave tighter the family fabric, a tangible bond across unseen threads. You lean into the next stroke, feeling the weight of expectations, the unseen lineage beside you. Some elders believe their ancestors watch over each new line drawn, every curve formed. You can picture it, the ghost of a carver, tools at rest, overseeing each movement, nodding approval as the shape beneath your hands comes alive with familiar echoes. How much of a carver's mastery came from practiced muscle, and how much from inherited wisdom? The debate swirls in your mind as you carve a crescent curve. Could they overlap entirely? Amid this intricate dance of past and present, the concept of time stretches. Historians still argue whether Tlingit carvings hold time travel a leap backward, a leap forward through every carve's echo. Your hands move fluidly, as if each strike unlocks a moment from long-lost family albums. You feel them more than just imagine your relatives clustered around, breathing life into the grain, merging centuries into single strokes. Your work pauses as the sun sets, shadows creeping longer across your tools. In these twilight hours, the carvers of old might have shared their secrets, whispers of technique, whispers of reverence, the connection to those who came before pulses stronger in the stillness, binding you to the rhythmic heart of the Tlingit tradition. Family isn't a bloodline, but a continuum, a living thread that vibrates with each stroke. You finish, stepping back to admire your work, and yet feel the lingering presence of hands that never stopped guiding, even after silence claimed their names. It's said that each carving doesn't just hold stories of the past, it bridges eras, the way a young nephew's carved piece could resemble an older uncle's decades-old work, almost to the detail. You can see how family legacies are sculpted not just in wood, but in souls that persist across time. You stand back, admiring how generations converge in every groove, their presence felt with each grain turned surface, spirit wrapped eternally with hand. It's more than ancestry here. It's as if every carver, through the ages, remains present in the pulse of the knife, the grain's sigh, the stories told by wood and blood. Those carved stories will live on, guiding future hands just as yours have been guided tonight. The Tlingit carvers don't just shape wood. They weave stories into the very fibers of the trees themselves. Each chisel, each strike holds the weight of both personal memory and communal legacy. As evening melds into night, you find comfort in knowing rivers meet here just as histories converge. This confluence of stories is more than mere coincidence. The Tlingit approach to carving mirrors the fluid, interconnected nature of their cultural tales, where every brook and stream adds its drop to the mighty Pacific. You picture how rivers braid tales together, much like family stories intertwine along coastal forests. In one breath, you carve the smooth curve of a raven, and with the next, trace ancestral migrations. These waterways are the veins of a living land, each carrying whispers from the mountains to the ocean. Every stroke feels like unveiling not just a shape, but an entire journey, a confluence of time, movement, and spirit. You imagine elders speaking of rivers, how they hold histories in currents. Keek's T-Lane, or the great raven, once flew down and touched streams, infusing them with life's lore. Perhaps it's poetic, but fitting that your carving hand pauses to consider each eddy, each bend, and how stories flow between banks. This isn't just myth, it's an experience. In the tactile rhythm of carving, you can hear the gentle rush of these metaphorical, life-giving streams. Some historians believe river confluences were spiritual crossroads where the Tlingit would seek visions, while others argue these were practical meetings for trade and storytelling circles. The debate continues. Did rivers serve as pathways for shamanic visions, or as arteries for communal exchange? As your blade glides through cedar, the debate swirls with the wood shavings. Were these streams sacred or social highways? Both, perhaps. After all, the physical world exists in harmony with the spiritual, forming an intricate network, just like the rivers themselves. Fringe theories whisper of water's mystical properties. Perhaps the flowing rivers carried ancestral voices, murmuring into the carver's ear as they worked by the banks. Such ideas might sound whimsical, yet here in the quiet of your workspace, you let yourself consider, could the rivers have been liquid archives, guiding skilled hands toward forgotten designs? Your hands, after all, seem to find shapes unbidden, as though the river's songs guide each motion. The notion might sound fanciful, but the act of carving brings everything into sharp focus. You're not just a descendant of the Tlingit people, you're a living library of their stories, updated with every grain you encounter. As moonlight spills across unfinished totems, each new figure you chip reveals a layer of those ancient, water-carried legends. Ravens, eagles, bears, each emerges not just from wood, but from the river's memory held in the community. While your tools dig into cedar, your mind travels those rivers' narratives. There's the story of the orca who fell in love with a fisherman, an allegory for cooperation between sea and land. Legends like these were shared at riverbanks, mingling with the rushing water sounds, creating an acoustic tapestry where every word ripples outward. You chuckle softly, thinking how those stories, often inflated with each retelling, become tidal waves of imagination. And here stands the quirky tale. Some elders swear the river bends reveal unseen carvings made by water sprites, hidden beneath the surface. You might smirk, sprites. Yet the idea intrigues as much as it amuses. Perhaps those submerged etchings are the original scripts, written not by human hands, but by the land's first inhabitants, water spirits themselves. As a carver, you're part of a lineage that knows how to listen to more than just human voices. This confluence of history and mystery flows into your hands. There's a phrase historians still debate. Did early carvers interpret nature's cryptic scripts, or did they inscribe their own understanding onto the land? Your chisel pauses as you ponder. Are you merely bringing dormant tales to life, or are you creating new chapters, as the ancients did? The answer spills like water from a riverbed. Both hold truth. Your carving hand lowers. You find the smooth, rounded base of a whale emerging. With each stroke, you think of the migrating spirits these forms used to represent. Legends flow in rhythm with the tide. Whale motifs mark journeys across sea and time. This was no mere decoration. Each figure carved was a map, a compass, a guidepost toward understanding both your people's heritage and your place within its currents. And as you complete this whale's gentle curve, you sense the finality of the confluence, how stories meet, mesh, and flow forward. Riverbank or mountain peak, each environment offered its own narrative. Carving is an act of listening to those diverse voices, blending them into coherent tales. Just like the waters meeting the sea, every chip speaks, every carving resonates, an endless cycle that flows as inevitably as the rivers feeding into the ocean. Standing back, you notice how seamlessly each figure transitions, much like water finding its path around a bend. The whale flows into an orca, echoes of ancient maritime lore, now forever etched into wood. The stories live on, not just preserved, but evolving. And as you finally set your tools down, you know you're part of this continuum, a carver at a river's confluence, where each tale, like streams, feeds into something vast, unknown, and endlessly rich. You stand there, tools in hand, carved stories still echoing in the background. But now, your attention shifts toward the sky. Long before maps and compasses became navigational standards, the Tlingit followed the celestial patterns. Even today, the stars serve as cosmic tutors in your craft. You align your work with the night sky, allowing ancient wisdom to seep into each chisel stroke. Historians think constellations like the raven guided fishermen to rich waters. You ponder if the same stars whispered carving techniques to generations before you. Perhaps the Big Dipper wasn't just a celestial ladle, but a carving template, its stars marking the outline of tools and forms. You smirk at the thought, but let the idea breathe alongside your work. There's a quirky claim that lunar phases influence woodgrain visibility. Some swear a full moon reveals hidden patterns in the timber, guiding intricate carves. Skeptical, perhaps. Useful, maybe. As you glance at tonight's gibbous shape, you wonder if there's more celestial wisdom at play than human eyes can decode. Your grandmother always claimed the moon revealed secret carvings, though that might have been her way of encouraging you to work through midnight. Debates persist. Did the ancient Tlingit consider carvers as stargazers? After all, your art and the skies seem intertwined. Were your ancestors looking skyward as much as earthbound? Scholars argue whether carving was simply craft or a form of astral reverence. Each star you glimpse through the open cabin window feels like a pulse, syncing rhythmically with the arc of your knife. Some say Orion's belt marked not just a hunter, but a carver's template, 3 stars aligned in perfect balance, like a guide for symmetrical cuts. Fringe theorists say the northern lights themselves reveal hidden spirits longing to be freed through wood. You consider this as shimmering lights flicker on the horizon. Could those ethereal strands be spirit lines, eager to take form under your blade? Night by night, you realize carvings aren't just created, they're discovered, as if the stars imprint faint, glowing blueprints onto cedar planks. In soft whispers, they guide your hands toward forms invisible to others. The Pleiades cluster might resemble tiny birds yearning to escape the wood's confines. You laugh softly. Maybe, just maybe, your tools are unearthing the universe's hidden art collections, one chip at a time. Every constellation you trace, Great Bear, Little Dipper, feels like a celestial lesson in patience and precision. When your blade falters, the North Star offers steadiness. Perhaps you're not just a carver, but a cosmic scribe, transcribing patterns from the firmament into timber. Legends spoke of shamans who ascended to the stars, leaving maps etched in the sky for those who could read them. Now you wonder, could every star cluster be both a guide and a challenge, urging you to deepen your craft? You lean back, surveying the night sky. Patterns emerge that weren't there before, like ghostly silhouettes, just out of reach. Historians still argue whether Tlingit carvings were inspired by earthly totems or stellar designs. As the Milky Way stretches across the heavens, its swirls mimic the intricate lines carved into totems. You chuckle at how this cosmic dialogue feels like a collaborative art project, Earth meeting sky, hands meeting stars, and in those fleeting moments, as your knife finds rhythm, it's hard to deny that perhaps, just perhaps, something otherworldly collaborates with each stroke. The wood seems willing, almost inviting, as though it's been waiting for these patterns to surface, destined by celestial charts. You You let the thought linger as you step back, tools momentarily idle. Star patterns shimmer against the dark canvas of night, a testament to centuries of guidance. Perhaps these techniques weren't merely learned, they were gifted from the cosmos itself. And with that comforting possibility, you feel more ready than ever to resume your work. Stars overhead, spirits whispering from the timber. Another layer awaits to be unveiled, a story yearning its turn to be told. You feel the universe's pulse flowing through each fiber of the cedar, a quiet symphony of existence. The wood seems almost alive under your touch, resonating with the same cycles governing the river below. Long before you lifted the first chip, the Tlingit knew this. As you shape the timber, you echo ancient rhythms. The salmon themselves become your silent co-workers, their seasonal dance mirroring each carving stroke. Salmon aren't just resources, they're timekeepers. Historians agree, these fish orchestrated entire Tlingit calendars. When they surged back to spawn, time itself bent to their journey. You grin. Imagine your boss telling you to align your deadlines with sockeye arrivals. But here, you understand this deeper alignment. Their return marks not just seasonal change, but also when stories should be unearthed from their wooden slumber. Some elders whisper about salmon with hidden, luminescent markings, while most migrate unseen beneath the water's glassy surface. Fringed tailies speak of fish that glow with the moon's own light. You scoff gently. Moonlight fishing rods, but perhaps there's truth hidden in the hyperbole. If the salmon carried faint celestial luminance, wouldn't that explain why carving seemed to quicken during migration weeks? Was genius just a matter of swimming with the right light? Scholars still argue whether Tlingit carvers tracked the night sky or read the water for guidance first. As you carve, one hand on tool and the other tracing an imagined river's curve, you feel that debate settles into one undeniable truth. The cosmos and currents form a fluid continuum. When the fish leaped, so too did starlight ripple through the trees. How could you separate water's wisdom from the sky's mirrored path? Each stroke becomes an act of rebalancing worlds. Remember how your grandmother spoke of the salmon guiding war canoes with their upstream battles. Experts think the same migrations calibrated entire villages, movements. Perhaps every cedar carving was their way of honoring that liquid compass. As your knife bites deeper, it's less about creating and more about uncovering, revealing those submerged lines destined to surface for this very moment. You feel kinship with every fish swimming against the current, each scale a story nudging your own hand. Some elders claim river currents hum ancestral songs during spawning. As you work, the rhythm of water against stone pulls at your awareness. The very lifeblood of the land flows beneath your feet. Can any art exist outside that pulse? Perhaps every successful carve is a testament to river's song. And as the wood yields to form, you're simply the instrument translating between waters and skies. You smirk at the thought. Were you composer, or did the river's very music dictate the tempo? That night, as the northern sky blooms with aurora, their dance feels like liquid waves suspended upside down. Historians argue whether the Tlingit ever saw the sky as Earth's mirror, but looking through cascading light, duality dissolves. When you carve beneath these colors, are you not aligning with migrating spirits in another form? Perhaps the salmon's path and your blade's trail are one unbroken line echoing through both realms. Your knife becomes a bridge, every chip a step along creation's endless circle. Your blade slows, feeling time itself shift. The salmon's journey through you now flows into each curve and edge. This isn't merely craftsmanship, it's the dance of nature unbound. Whether starshine above or river song below, the patterns you reveal are part of something older, deeper. You laugh softly, realizing you're not just an artisan, you've become the universe's scribe of wood, with every grain a verse in creation's endless scripture. As the dawn breaks, pink light filters through the workshop. The wood's surface, now carrying stories as old as migration itself, whether guided first by water's ripple or sky's pattern. History loops through cedar, river, and sky all at once, a testament to how life's journeys echo across everything. And with each new daybreak, you're ready to etch the next verse, your work flowing with that same unbroken pulse. You find yourself at the dawn of another day, the pink light kissing the workshop's surface, illuminating, wood etched with the very essence of time's passage. Each grain whispers of centuries spent in rhythm with celestial and aquatic currents. As you lift your knife, there's an almost palpable anticipation in the air, a feeling like the universe itself is holding its breath. You know this sensation well. It's the very heartbeat of creation, the point where Carver becomes cosmic conductor. Today, the rhythm you'll chase comes from the river's confluence with ocean tides, a meeting that not only shapes landscapes, but destiny as well. Each swell whispers old truths, and today, you're determined to carve them into existence. Legend has it that Tlingit warriors once synchronized their raids with peak salmon runs, striking when the water's bounty required village focus inland rather than on defense. You grin at the mental image, stealthily planning ambushes under the guise of a fishing party. But perhaps there's more here than just battlefield strategy. Could it be that every successful carve, like a victorious raid, relied on understanding nature's rhythms at just the right moment? Then there's the story of Tlingit carvers crafting masks that supposedly bore actual salmon scales embedded within. Fringe as it sounds, imagine the shimmer. Did these scales serve as more than ornamentation? Did they tether the carver's intent to the salmon's journey, binding creator and creature in symbiotic artistry? Each stroke today feels particularly deliberate, as though your knife is seeking that ancient resonance. Experts still debate whether the Tlingit carved daily or only during migration's peak moments. As you guide your blade, you wonder if such questions miss the essence. Here, carving isn't bound by clock time, but by the cadence of existence. Waters push, moons pull, trees whisper. Each chip you remove reveals not just form, but a piece of life's grand mosaic. Today, your knife dances to water's pulse, translating liquid motion into visual poetry. The old tales say salmon once carried human souls within their bodies, migrating between worlds. As you carve, you can almost feel those ancestral spirits whispering through the wood, guiding your hand. What if each finished piece isn't just a carving, but a soul's portrait? As the cedar yields, it's as if you're peeling away layers of forgetfulness, unmasking truths not born from imagination, but borrowed from the river's ancient memory books. Take the time when carvers allegedly shaped totem poles during solar eclipses, believing cosmic shadows lent extra potency. You chuckle eclipse-timing artisans, but perhaps there was genius in that mysticism. When light blurs between realms, perhaps creative minds pierce through mundane boundaries, linking the carver's hand to the universe's own designs. Here, each stroke seems less about subtraction and more about revelation. As the wood softens beneath your knife, you feel connected to an endless chain of moments, rivers flowing, stars aligning, carvings emerging. The boundary between artist and cosmos dissolves, and you can't help but wonder, is each piece you create an echo of nature? Or are you merely nature's echo given form? Today's work feels particularly vibrant, almost urgent. As the cedar's life sings through your hands, you're not just an artist, you're the confluence of multiple currents. The river's song, the sky's script, and the salmon's saga merge through your knife, transforming transient rhythms into eternal designs. Each new dawn will unfurl more stories, and you're ready to etch them, forever in harmony with the universe's unspoken symphony. The air hums with a deeper resonance today, each breath drawing you closer to an ancient melody. You're tuned into the frequency of creation, the one that aligns with salmon's song, a rhythm that both guides and emerges from the depths of memory. As you guide your knife along the wood, there's an almost musical quality to the resistance, the cedar's counterpoint to your deliberate strokes. Historians tell us that the Tlingit people believed salmon were born from the sweat of the sun trickling into mountain streams. Who knew fish could have such sunbathing origins? As you carve, you almost expect a ray of light to break through the clouds, transforming sap into shimmering scale. But was this sun-sweat belief more than poetic whimsy? Could it have been a metaphor for the essential connection between warmth, growth, and sustenance? A triad as fundamental as the tides themselves. There's still debate about whether carvers sang while working, chants harmonizing with hammer taps. You hum a low note, testing the theory. Surprisingly, the wood almost seems to resonate with the vibration. But did the Tlingits only sing during certain phases of migration? Was their rhythm more deliberate and perhaps more complex than mere work song? Carving today, you feel a new kinship with the fish whose patterns you follow. Each chisel strike and knife glide reveal patterns within the cedar, echoing the ones you see in your mind's eye beneath the river's surface. You're translating an aqueous language into tactile form, turning salmon's sinuous grace into etched whispers beneath your fingertips. Is your creation merely an imitation? Or are you uncovering pre-existing verses written in the grain? Let's dive into the quirky. What if those famed salmon scale embedded masks actually had hidden acoustic properties? Imagine ceremonial dancers whose every step created a symphony of aquatic rustling, bridging the tangible and ethereal worlds. Could ancient carvers have crafted auditory illusions as well as visual masterpieces? Now you can't help imagining your tools creating not just form, but sounds, a percussive poetry accompanying creation. Take the time when carvers allegedly competed to see who could capture the salmon's spirit most authentically. Did judges seek the carving whose grain flowed downstream most fluidly? The ones whose eyes mirrored the river's depths? You ponder these silent competitions as your knife finds a rhythm almost beyond conscious control. Are you shaping the cedar? Or is it shaping you in response to some unseen current? Carving now, you realize each piece isn't just an endpoint, but a moment captured in the great dance between land and water. Is today's work the crescendo of some vast, unwritten symphony? Your hands pause for an instant, the knife hovering above wood that feels more like a living map than mere material. Today's lines and curves are translating not just animal movement, but the very essence of migration, an eternal flow made tangible through your craft. And as you carve, who knows what secrets these shapes might reveal? Perhaps each finished piece holds echoes of the rivers that cradled their inspiration, waiting for the right moment to sing through fingertips anew. Each stroke you make seems like an answer to a question posed by tides and stars. The universe itself bending through your knife work into something other. Today, no space exists between carver and cosmos. You are the salmon swimming through wood, guiding the knife through streams of possibility. You reach the edge of a tide pool, its surface shimmering like a captured fragment of ocean. Here, life teems in miniature. Anemones flutter like underwater blooms. Hermit crabs scuttle along hidden paths. Each creature plays its part in the grand aquatic theater. And you can't help but imagine the Tlingit carvers crouched nearby, gleaning secrets from these microcosms. Perhaps they saw their own lives reflected here, small, intricate, part of something much larger. Did you know tide pools can be underwater nurseries? Tiny salmon fry hide among the kelp fronds, safe from predators until they're ready to brave the open sea. How poetic that the same currents guiding the adult salmon's return also protect their young. Maybe that's why carvers felt such kinship with these pools. Both were birthing grounds of sorts, wood and water, childhood and mastery, all swirling in harmony. Now lean closer, See that cluster of barnacles. Legends claim Carvers believed these crustaceans were miniature salmon spirit guards. They'd whisper prayers here for protection during dangerous coastal carvings. Did they truly think the barnacles held power? Or was this simply a way to honor the cycle of life unfolding before them? Historians still argue whether these beliefs were spiritual convictions or metaphorical tools. Imagine yourself whispering to the barnacles now, half smiling at your own silliness. But hey, who hasn't anthropomorphized an inanimate object when the right mood strikes? You'd hardly be the first creator to find inspiration in odd places. Now, place your hand on a rock that's seen millennia of tides. Can you feel the pulse beneath your palm? Carvers swore these stones carried the ocean's heartbeat, a silent metronome guiding their chisels. Here's the quirky part. Some ancient masks had tiny concavity bowls carved into their backs. Fringe theories claim these were meant to collect dew from morning fog, tears of the dawn, if you will, creating moisture that would blend with ceremonial paint. Could this be another layer of oceanic reverence? Did those first drops mirror the tides that both nourished and challenged them? The question feels almost sacrilegious, yet undeniably intriguing. You've heard tales of carvers crafting entirely underwater, breathing through hollow reeds while letting the sea's movement dictate their rhythms. While modern logic might scoff, what if there's truth in the hyperbole? Imagine fingers dancing along submerged cedar planks as fish dart between strokes, the very elements conspiring in creation. Maybe those legends are simply the Tlingit way of reminding us that every masterpiece emerges dripping from the source of its inspiration. As your knife glides into the wood, you swear you can hear the tide pool whispering secrets, revealing the interplay of currents beneath the surface. Is each curve you carve an echo of the way water etches stone? Historians still argue whether early carvers performed sacred rites by tide pools before major works, seeking blessings in that brackish blend of life and movement. Whether ritual or metaphor, the notion feels deliciously resonant. You pause, remembering that time carvers allegedly crafted intricate tide pool dioramas inside their totem bases. Visitors would notice the salmon atop, but miss the mini ecosystem hidden beneath. Was this a commentary on the unseen forces shaping our lives? Maybe to the Tlingit, the truest magic lay in those layers beneath the obvious. The next cut you make feels less like subtraction and more like excavation, uncovering not just grain, but the heartbeats of stories past and present. What if those revered masks that seemed purely ceremonial held functional roles? Whispering galleries, perhaps, where tide pool secrets could be funneled inward, then directed outward during certain rites. Imagine elders speaking into the masks, ear-shaped concavities, their words amplified through tiny interior chambers, a living seashell echoing ancestral wisdom. Now, your tool feels less like a sculptor's implement and more like a key to unlock hidden frequencies dormant in the wood. Finally, the piece takes shape, a salmon midleap, suspended in that tension between elements. Was it the tide pool's murmur you captured today? Or has the cedar itself always held this fluidity within its fibers? Each line tells a tale of migration and metamorphosis. The river, the knife, the tide pool's pulse, all converge in this singular act of creation. In the quiet hum after the final cut, you know this is why the Tlingits listened so intently to the sea's heartbeat. Because sometimes the answer was never in the crafting, but in the echo you left behind. You emerge from the tide pool's embrace under a velvet sky where constellations map ancestral routes across cosmic seas. Though stars feel ageless, you remember old stories. Some ancient Tlingit carvers believed certain night skies could alter fortune. Historians still argue whether these were navigational aids or astral omens. You squint at Cassiopeia, her W shape perhaps a silent guide for those daring enough to read her angles. Did you know the full moon's gravitational pull can raise tides by several additional feet? Imagine ancient carvers watching shadows lengthen as lunar cycles brought not just light, but physical change. No wonder they considered their rhythm bound to celestial bodies as much as earthly rivers. The moon's phases weren't just dates they marked, they were pulses in their very bloodstream. There's an old tale some elders chuckle about. Tlingit apprentices once believed sleeping under particular moon phases might imbue them with carving prowess. Did some ambitious craftsfolk actually camp beneath those silver crescents for inspiration? While fringe, the notion brings a grin, young carvers gazing upward, dreaming of masks that could dance between worlds. Picture yourself laying down now, eyes tracing paths in Orion's belt. Historians still debate whether nocturnal observations were solely functional or also spiritual for our ancestors. Under star-splattered heavens, every stroke must have felt simultaneously terrestrial and celestial, like you were etching wood and sky at once. On your forearm, cedar's scent mingles with nighttime salt. Ancient Tlingit may have believed lunar glow could infuse their wood with extra resilience. One quirky artifact shows a moon phase etched reverse into a totem's back, perhaps a creator's signature or a celestial prayer. Maybe to them, light and rhythm were materials as tactile as bark and bone. Just breathe. Let the lunar path set this night alight. Each sigh carries whispers of how tides, carvers, and star maps intertwined to form living atlases. The moon waxes. Your knife shifts, two dance partners moving in unspoken accord. Carvers felt this cosmic synchronicity not just as tradition, but in their bones. Their craft flowed through veins already tuned to the universe's nightly pulse. You almost laugh at yourself. But then did they really chant to particular star alignments before major works? The idea seems poetic folly. Yet every stroke beneath these shimmering patterns feels cosmically bound. What if those accidental carvings that mirrored night skies were intentional all along? a shooting star streaks, and there it hits you. Tlingit legends suggest some works were meant to capture that literal stardust. Could the best pieces have been those blessed by fortuitous moments? No wonder they waited for perfect tides, not just in water, but in stars. Each line became both a timeline and a time capsule. Now your piece nears completion. The cedar glows silvered as though it absorbed lunar energy. You marvel at how night's quiet brought unseen hands into your craft, rivers turned inward, currents flowing through fingertips. In this moonlit moment, you understand why carvers left their mark synced to that distant, glowing metronome. Because life's rhythm wasn't just earthbound, but a lunar tide's gentle pull weaving destinies through time. And finally, in the silence of your work, you realize the moon's path isn't only an external guide, it's also the cadence inside you, a heartbeat that matches the night's breath. This dance continues, even when eyes close, and as sleep's tide washes over, you know tomorrow's dawn will greet a sun carver. But for tonight, you're a child of silver light, guided by invisible tides above. The moon's glow fades as dawn cracks the sky. Sunlight weaves new stories through forest roots. You rise, stretching under the emerging light. The cedar's scent now mingles with pine sap and earthy undertones. Remember those tide pool whispers from last night. Those living pools held more than just ocean's heartbeat. Some old-timers might argue they connected directly with ancient river spirits. Historians still debate whether these beliefs influenced the earliest carvers' migration patterns. Here's a little-known fact. Before colonial influence, Tlingit territory stretched across coastal Alaska, well into British Columbia. Imagine the vastness of forests these carvers called home. Trees here are more than just wood, they're storytellers. Did you know some elders believed certain trees absorbed past glories, almost like living totems? While modern science might scoff, the idea that arboreal histories could transfer to carvings remains endearingly quirky in Tlingit lore. You trek deeper into the woods, feeling soil's ancient vibrations through your soles. Historical texts often glorify Tlingit carvers as mythic figures. But did you know some believed their craft began with a simple stick etched by wind and rain? That first carving became a blueprint for generations. Historians still argue whether this legend is an etymological foundation tale or a genuine historical memory. Each tree tells a hidden story. That gnarled spruce, it faced centuries of wind and snow, perhaps watching countless salmon runs from its elevated perches. Some carvers claim certain trees, those twisted and battle-worn, held more potent wisdom. You pause to examine a particularly twisted root system. Imagine the ancestral carvers, perhaps facing this very tree, feeling a connection through its weathered lines. Maybe they saw past, present, and future bound in its grasp. Here's a chuckle-worthy tale. Early European explorers, upon first encountering these intricate totem poles, actually thought They were historical records, like their own written ledgers. While totems did serve to pass down lineage and lore, their true depth went way beyond that. Think about it. Wood carrying not just family crests, but spirits, moral tales, and even entire clan stories etched in knot and grain. As you walk, you notice young saplings pushing through decomposed ancient logs. This cycle of growth and decay echoes Tlingit creation myths, where life persists through transformation. Some fringe theorists argue these carvers may have used specific plant resins to charge carvings with life force. Of course, historians debate fiercely whether such claims are romanticized New Age fantasies or remnants of real practices. Your fingers brush against a sun-warmed pine. Tlingit carvers didn't just harvest trees, they entered dialogues with them. Some stories suggest they negotiated with the spirits of the forest before each cut. While poetic, it's a far cry from modern clear-cutting methods. Experts still puzzle over whether sustainable practices were spiritual mandates or ecological necessity. You feel a kinship with old Tlingit notions that the best carvings were those the forest willingly offered. The path curves, revealing an old cedar wide, old, and with deep furrows. You think of those monumental poles, carved from single massive trunks. Such trees could be hundreds of years old. Some claim these ancient cedars held memories of previous millennia, like living libraries of past climates, migrations, and even forgotten carvers' voices. Again, historians argue whether such reverence simply deepened material respect or truly altered craft techniques. You pause to listen. Birds sing not as individuals, but as a living chorus. This auditory tapestry blends with wind's whispers and distant rivers' murmurs. Remember how waves spoke near tide pools. Here, the forest layers its stories sonically, each rustle a line of an ongoing saga. Could it be carvers chose certain trees based both on wood quality and auditory character? Finally, the path emerges into a sun-dappled clearing. You see freshly peeled bark rolls. The artisans here are part of a living lineage tracing back not just through generations, but through ecosystems. Each cut, scrape, and polish embodies not only individual craft, but centuries of symbiotic exchange with nature's elements. As your carving knife finds its groove again, you feel the cedar surrendering its stories. Here, amidst the roots, you understand the tree's truth. Carving isn't merely extraction, but deep communion. Your work here is as much about listening as it is about etching. In every stroke, the past whispers, the forest hums, and the river flows. Snow blankets the ground, each crystal a whisper of nature's soft command. You trudge through, feeling the crunch underfoot, every step a quiet conversation with the earth. The cold air is sharp, reminding you that winter's breath guides not just the salmon, but each movement you make. Historically, did you know that Tlingit communities often moved encampments during snow months, aligning with the shortened food chains that mirrored the salmon's journeys. Their mobility wasn't just survival, it was a living dance with the landscape. As you continue, you remember that ancient belief about snow's shadows revealing spirit paths. Though modern science might attribute those patterns to sunlight refraction and ice crystal formation, there's a poetic truth in the Tlingit idea that winter itself could be a map. Those who track the stars claim the North Star reveals hidden trails. Historians still argue whether these celestial navigators carried detailed star maps or simply followed the horizon's whispers. Did you know that, in particularly harsh winters, some Tlingit carvers would craft temporary sculptures out of snow? These frosty renditions of totems served as sacred placeholders until spring would allow for more permanent pieces. It's an almost whimsical thought that their cold hands could summon detailed art from such fleeting materials. Think of it, snow carvings standing under moonlight, spirit guides forged not in wood, but from the very breath of Tlingit territories. Each flake that falls now seems a continuation of that age-old craft. As you carve deeper into the icy scene, you notice how frost forms delicate patterns on wooden tools left outside. Some elders say these intricate frost designs were spirits crafting their own miniature carvings on forgotten nights. A quirky belief, certainly, but who hasn't peered at a frozen window and seen whole worlds in those ice crystals? The Tlingit embraced seasonal shifts not just as necessity, but as divine collaboration. Whether through wood or snow, they found mediums that echoed the salmon's rhythms and tides. Walking under pines heavy with snow, you realize these trees aren't just bystanders. They're whispering old stories through every creek and snow drop. Just as spring floods carry fresh nutrients, winter's quiet seems to etch deeper meanings into each pause and gesture. There's a fringe tale told about how some carvers would leave small offerings to encourage the snow to reveal paths through its depths. Perhaps a pinch of tobacco or carved tokens slipped beneath the icy crust. Whether this was a means of mental alignment or actual spiritual practice, it's a vivid connection showing the extent to which nature was not a background, but a living partner in their work. Historians debate if such rituals were born from deep-seated superstition or a psychological strategy for facing winter's isolation. You brush your hand against a frozen branch. Imagine the first carvers facing the deep freeze, feeling that their work wasn't just a response to survival, but a sacred act of continuation. Each groove carved into snow echoed through centuries of practice, mirroring the persistence seen in salmon, returning undeterred by icy barriers. Cold steel meets cold wood, but even here, under frost's icy hand, there's a warmth in knowing your craft is part of a continuum, aligned with the very breath of Tlingit heritage. Snow bends under a nearby cedar's weight. You lean close to inspect the subtle shifts, how snow can create a temporary cloak, hiding ancient bark's furrowed wisdom. even in its temporary veil, that tree stands enduring. Did you know that during particularly deep snow years, entire villages would shift carving focus, creating ephemeral works of art that would disappear with spring? Those transient pieces served as reminders that even the most sacred acts were still subject to nature's cycles. Historians still explore the idea that these carvers might have used seasonal variations to inform technique, whether that's etching snow with sharp edges in winter or letting spring's softer tools round out their visions. Each shift in medium from wood to snow and back again could be a year-long journey of tactile revelation, where winter frost served as winter's teacher. As you work with the tools at hand, you consider how each element, teach, tide, and snow, speaks not as separate forces, but as interconnected threads in a vaster narrative. The ground around you is a living palimpsest, where frost writes over roots, and your knife follows along, carving truths whispered by snow's murmur. Here among the ancient trees, snow's silence becomes a loud guide. It doesn't just cover the land, it unveils deeper lessons hidden in plain sight. With each step, your own movements become an echo. You're carving stories, not just into wood, but into the very fabric of seasons that guide your hands. Snow melts slowly under your focused breath, each drip a testament to endurance. The same way rivers shape valleys over centuries, your work here is patient. Every line is a drop that carves its own path through the landscape's story. You realize that as the flakes dissolve, returning nutrients to the earth, your craft, born from ice and wood, also feeds back into the cycles you follow. In this intricate exchange, you hear the salmon's guiding call woven through every quiet breath of the winter landscape. Summits hold old knowledge, and you peer upward where the first hints of morning light meet towering peaks. Each mountain a guardian of wisdom, its silence both daunting and inviting. Historians still argue whether early Tlingit shamans sought mountaintops for spiritual clarity or as astronomical observatories. Maybe both truths intertwine in those heights. As you ascend a modest rise, the elevation brings a change. Winds cut sharper here, but with them comes an invigorating clarity. Did you know that some Tlingit carvers believe reaching higher elevations fosters deeper communication with spiritual guides, a quirky blend of physics and metaphysics? Higher altitudes, indeed, offer clearer horizons, but whether that also clears the spirit is debatable. You take a breath, grounding yourself in the view. Mountaintops provide spaces where the world unfurls beneath you. Rivers trace silver veins across the land, forests blanket valleys, and far off, the ocean whispers. Historians debate if these panoramic views were the birthplaces of grander designs, where carvers might conceptualize totemic giants from the summit's broader perspective. Whether they looked outwards to conceive or inwards for deeper inspiration remains a tantalizing question. Nature's older wisdom finds voice in these peaks. You think back to how the early carvers with limited modern insulation, would brave such heights. There's a fringe belief that some would carry hot stones wrapped in animal pelts to maintain warmth during stone carving sessions on these slopes. Modern hikers might scoff, but imagine the comfort and inspiration those heated embraces must have offered amidst the chill. Climbing further, you encounter the remnants of old trails, barely perceptible under the snow's cloak. These paths are more than mere routes. They are arteries connecting village hearts to mountaintop minds. Did you know that many of these trails were meticulously maintained, not just for practical purposes, but to honor the continuous journey between sky and earth? Some say that early Tlingit carvers inscribed subtle carvings into rock faces along these trails, marking their spiritual ascents. As you hike, consider the layers of earth underfoot. Rocks jut through the white blanket, each one a testament to unseen tectonic symphonies playing beneath your boots. Historians still ponder whether these ancient landforms directly influenced the form and flow of Tlingit carvings. Perhaps the curvature of glacial-shaped stones echoed in the elegant bends of totemic arms outstretched in blessing. From atop a ridge, you witness the meeting of earth and sky, a horizon that feels touchable. Some Tlingit stories whisper of mountaintops where eagles and wolves share silent conversation, bridging the aerial and the terrestrial realms in ancient treaties. This quirky folklore paints a landscape not just alive, but vibrant with cross-species wisdom. Whether it's rooted in deep ecology or imaginative dreaming, these stories carve their way into your mind. The journey down pulls your gaze over the land, where every dip and rise holds the breath of the salmon's ancient migrations. Even here, in the heights, you feel the tide's unseen pull. There's a debate among scholars whether the placement of villages near mountain bases was dictated by the need for protection or a deeper, more mystical attunement with the land's natural rhythms. Perhaps a blend of survival instincts and ancestral reverence. Each step descending feels heavier, imbued with the weight of the mountaintop's silent teachings. You think of the carvers, whose hands transformed these ancestral whispers into living legends. The mountains didn't just inspire, they shaped the very arcs and angles of Tlingit craftsmanship, guiding their artistry through unseen bonds. You reach the valley floor, feeling the landscape's stories pulse in sync with your own heartbeat. As the sun dips lower, the shadow of those mighty peaks stretches across the land, casting long, meaningful embraces. Those Tlingit carvers, you realize, were not merely observers of nature, but its active, reverent interpreters. Each peak, each tide, a verse in the grand song they continued to carve. And now, beneath the mountain's watch, you too are part of that enduring dialogue. The valley floor welcomes you like an old friend, its rolling expanse a contrast to the heights you've just descended. Here, the sea's whisper grows clearer, carried on coastal breezes that stir ancient stories. Historians can't agree on whether carvers preferred the valley for the rich wood or to stay closer to the ocean's influence, likely both. You wander among the trees, each shadow speaking in the silent language of tides and timber. This region's ocean holds a past as vast as its waves, and there's a hidden gem in this watery tapestry. Some claim that certain bays host underwater forests. Yes, trees submerged in salt water, standing sentinel even when the tides rise and fall. It's said these maritime groves hold remnants of ancestral canoe routes, invisible pathways navigated by generations of carvers seeking both cedar and inspiration. You ponder what other secrets lie beneath the wavelets, waiting only for the right moment to surface. Hiking further along a coastal trail that winds through moss-blanketed stones, you listen for the sea's tailies, each wave a syllable in ancient song. There's a quirky theory that ocean currents, when listened to long enough, mimic the musical scales used in Tlingit songs. It's a hypothesis that blends hydrology with harmony, though most modern mariners might just hear the crash and foam. Yet what's lost in noise to some might be melody to those who listen through the silence. The scent of sea salt mingles with earthy soil, grounding you in this coastal liminality. As you approach the shore, the ocean reveals its rhythms, some forceful, some a gentle caress. Historians still argue whether the tides influenced the timing of carvings, or if the carvers attuned their rhythms to natural currents. Perhaps it's a little of both, a harmonious interplay like the ocean's own dance with the moon. You find pieces of driftwood lining the beach, each one a story carried far by the water. Standing at the water's edge, the waves offer a tactile connection to the forces that guide carvers' hands. Experts think the tide's cyclical movements might have mirrored the repetitive motions required in woodcutting, a physical and metaphorical resonance. Who knows if ancient artisans stood here contemplating the push and pull of the sea, just as you do now. Here, inspiration is almost tangible, each ebb and flow nudging your spirit as firmly as it shapes the coast. You notice a grove of Sitka spruce nearby, their needles whispering secrets to the wind. Some Tlingit legends tell of these trees providing refuge for sea spirits between journeys, a quirky thought. Considering how many carvings feature motifs blending oceanic and arboreal elements, could these trees be more than wooden canvases? Perhaps they are living repositories of marine wisdom, translating whispers from the deep into forms understood by human hands. A solitary raven caws overhead, adding punctuation to this marine symphony. They say that some Tlingit carvers believed ravens could shift between the physical and spiritual realms, bringing messages along with them. Is there truth to this belief? Or is it simply a way to make the natural world more animate? Maybe the answer lies not in proof, but in the continuity of believing. That raven might just be a reminder of the unseen stories the ocean carries, waiting for hands like those of the Tlingit carvers to translate them. The sun begins its descent, casting the sea in hues of burnished gold. You realize how the ocean's presence has always been intertwined with the land's, a symbiotic dance between fluid depths and steadfast shores. The Tlingit carvers understood this relationship profoundly, crafting pieces that not only honored the salmon migrations, but also the tides that guided them. In their work was the essence of water's ceaseless movement, every carving a whisper of the sea immortalized in wood. As twilight deepens, you reflect on the day's journey from towering heights to whispering waters. The mountains and oceans might seem worlds apart, but through the eyes of a Tlingit carver, they are notes in the same song. And now, as you stand where land meets water, you feel part of that endless melody, each element guiding the artist's spirit and hand through a dance as old as time itself. Firelight flickers, casting elongated shadows that seem to stretch and weave across the rugged timber walls. The warmth envelops you, the scent of burning cedar grounding the space in its rich, earthy aroma. Around this fire, many stories have been told, and tonight is no different. Each crackling ember holds memories eager to be breathed into life. Sit closer. You're not blocking the light. The Tlingit people you recall have always revered fire as a conduit to other realms, a glowing portal where spirits gather at the dance of flame and shadow. Historians still debate whether these firelight ceremonies were meant purely for guidance, or if they were also tools to inspire carvers in their vision quests. The past loves its secrets, doesn't it? Each ember seems to pulse with tales from olden days, and a stray memory of your own childhood flickers back. Stories whispered under flashlight tents. There were tales about glowing sea creatures that used to be mistaken for submerged spirits. Did ancient eyes see those same phantoms as the firelight's dance mirrored watery glow? The firelight flickers, and for a moment, you picture those old-world fishermen, lanterns bobbing softly beside them as they wait for the harvest. Your eyes scan the room, or what passes for a room in this half-open lodge, half shelter, half altar to nature. Some believe that the Tlingit even used reflective firelight to study carvings in a new light, revealing patterns that daytime missed. Those shadows that creep along the wooden beams, were they merely tricks of the eye, or were they whispers from the spirits guiding hands through meticulous work? A gentle laugh from the elders circles back to you, their faces illuminated by the fire's playful glow. Imagine them gathering here after a successful catch, stories flowing like water, each voice adding harmony to the symphony of the evening. Perhaps they'd recount the olden tales of the first salmon, that sacred moment when the river met the sea, and life itself began an inexorable migration. Such moments, rendered into story, would inevitably find their way onto cedar and spruce, immortalized through artistry. This tradition of carving under firelight, did it sharpen focus, or was it a reminder of impermanence? You ponder this, a historian's quandary burning through your thoughts. Fire has a voice, deep and urgent, one that demands your presence in the now. Experts think that this immediacy of flame, ever changing, never the same, reflected the transient cycles of salmon and moon alike. Perhaps that was the lesson, to carve not against time, but within its very pulse. Close your eyes, just for a second, and you can almost see the carvers here, shadows mimicking their deliberate strokes. The flickering light on their faces must have been as much a part of the art as the wood and chisel. In these moments, could they see the spirits in those firelight shadows, urging their hands to find truth beneath the surface? As the flames sink a little, the room's silence seems deeper, richer. The fire's dimming brings a quiet that envelops, not unlike the moments when the northern lights would shimmer through winter skies, casting not heat, but a strange, cool glow. They say that some Tlingit carvers considered the aurora's dance a celestial call to creation. But that's a story to be saved for frosty nights and sleeping embers. You open your eyes to find the fire still burning, a little lower now. Its story's not quite done. Each dying flame gives birth to ash, which drifts upward like the lightest of whispers. And here, in this space where earth meets sky through flame, you understand the carver's secret. It's not just the wood that's alive, but the very breath of creation that pulses between light and shadow. So, let the embers sing their song. They remember more than we ever could, guiding hands that shape not just wood, but legacy. You feel a soft nudge of realization as you lean back. The fire's glow isn't fading, it's merely shifting, guiding your eyes to notice the carvings on the lodge's far wall. Oh, look, the figures emerge from shadow, their stories unfolding like scrolls left in the sun. Firelight carves new meanings into already rich surfaces. And you think, perhaps, that even the masters themselves, in seeing their work in the soft shadows, felt new inspiration for their next endeavor. But here, in this lodge where whispers of flame blend with echoes of ocean and wood, the night is young. The fire's still sharing, teaching, calling the carver within you to listen closely, and you lean in, captivated, waiting for the next ember to breathe life into another untold story. A subtle draft stirs the edges of your awareness. You look up, catching sight of a large window set high on the opposite wall, letting in just enough moonlight to trace the curve of a majestic eagle. Its wings are poised like nature's own symphony, half in shadow, half illuminated, a symbol of both flight and the grounding of tradition. You tilt your head back, feeling the cool night air dance across your skin, mingling with the fire's warmth. This lodge isn't just a shelter, it's a portal that bridges the realms of earth and sky. And here, somewhere between fire and moonlight, the carvers ascend in spirit, if not in body. From this height, they might glimpse the river winding like a serpent down the mountain, or follow the path of migrating salmon, who, like these eagles, seem destined for specific journeys. A memory surfaces of old tales where eagles were considered guides sent by ancestors. How fitting, then, that historians still argue whether these majestic birds served as omens of the salmon's return. Did their circling patterns predict the tides or the winds, aligning the Tlingit with cosmic rhythms? Perhaps they were silent sentinels, guardians of this sacred dance between river and sea. In that moment, you're struck by something whimsical from folklore. The idea that eagles' feathers found in olden lodges were believed to draw out the carver's hidden talents. Whether this was literal or symbolic, who can say? One could almost imagine an apprentice sneaking a quill into their belt, eyes glowing with the hope of sudden inspiration. And why not humor a touch of magic in their tools and trades? Night deepens, and you're drawn back to the fire's pulse. Here, you might notice how the flame's light and shadow cast eagles in flight along the wood's surface, morphing solid matter into ethereal movement. Experts think carvers found these natural patterns under moonlight, an illusion that inspired their next masterpiece. The flickering shadows, paired with the moon's luminescence, seemed to animate the wood, merging creators' vision with the forces of nature. It's said that during the darkest nights, Tlingit artists climbed to eagles' perches to get an expanded view of the world below. From this height, the landscape's vast interconnectedness became evident, their work as carvers a tangible link in this intricate web. Did this broader perspective elevate their craft, blending skybound imagery with grounded reality? Remember that time when, as a child, you tried and failed to see the world from atop a tree. Heights aren't a luxury for the light-headed, but for those who seek the scope of vision required to trace the salmon's journey. The climb was worth the vertigo. Perched high, with both sky and sea within sight, carvers might catch a new angle of truth, the kind that makes your heart race with the view. The fire crackles again, pulling you toward an almost forgotten truth. How the moon's phase dictated the tides, which in turn guided the salmon's swim upstream. The carver's hands, working under both firelight and moonlight, found a rhythm that mirrored these forces. Perhaps they paused to gaze skyward, wondering if the moon's glow might inspire not just their tools, but their souls, lending clarity and depth to their creations. It's here, in the moon's soft illumination, where some claim that spirits whispered more clearly than under bright day. You half smirk, thinking of ghost stories meant to entertain children by campfires long past yours. Yet, if those spirits existed, their words might have been advice on the finest grain to carve or the next motif to embrace. A celestial art critique whispered through cold breeze and shadow, and as the fire settled into embers, you notice the last glow painting the lodge in deep gold. Perhaps this was their studio's twilight hour, the moment when inspiration sparked fresh, each spark a universe containing endless possibility. The view from an eagle's perch might have been their moment of clarity, the sky-touching ambition captured forever in wood's embrace. Let the cool night air stir through you, imagining the view from dizzying heights. Here, the past feels present, and carvers, guided by eagles, tides, and moons, might just touch the infinity of their creative potential. You exhale, feeling the weight of tradition and vision settling in, ready to elevate your soul along with theirs. The dance between firelight and moonlight fades, leaving the night open, waiting, and you rooted yet skybound in spirit. Prepare to follow these paths carved by hands, both ancient and aspirational, letting wisdom flow through fingers and breath alike. Balance seeps into your awareness like a slow tide coming in, neither too forceful nor gentle, just measured. You lean back, letting the embers' fading warmth blend with the night's cool breath, recognizing how the Tlingit carvers once found their rhythm amid such contrasts. Each season's ebb and flow informed their work, creating pieces that sang with nature's harmony. You think about the seasons themselves, how their predictable yet shifting cycles mirrored the salmon's journey. It makes you wonder, did the ancients ever glance up at the sky, searching for a sign from a passing eagle? In moments of stillness, it felt like the world held its breath in anticipation, waiting for the perfect alignment of earth, sky, and water. How did these carvers maintain their balance when life required constant adjustment? Remember how some traditions say the trees themselves chose the wood for the carvers. Historians still argue whether this was symbolic wisdom or a literal belief. Imagine an apprentice stepping into a grove, feeling the weight of each tree's spirit. A particularly gnarled Douglas fir might lean toward you, daring you to capture its story. Fringe lore hinted that the largest branches were whispered secrets from the great forest guardian, who preferred working under the veil of fog. Imagine explaining that on a job interview. As the moonlight spills further into the room, you notice how even the shadows seem to move with purpose. You think of an old story. The sun and moon were once married, spending their days trying to balance each other's temperaments. On particularly restless nights, their children, the stars, would dance in defiance, pulling at the tides and turning the world's rhythm into a cacophony of motion. The carvers might understood those nights best, balancing the chaos with their focused strokes. Some legends claim that during the equinox, the sun and moon balanced perfectly in the sky, a moment of such profound equilibrium it made the entire world's breath stutter. Could that be when the carvers felt their most inspired, a time when every element felt suspended in poised harmony, both guiding and supporting their hands? Imagine carving at that moment, as if the universe itself was bending to your will, your chisel gliding through wood in perfect alignment with nature's pulse. Historians still argue whether these perfect equinoxes gave the wood an added essence, almost like a cosmic seasoning. Your sarcasm peeks through. Next thing you know, they'll be bottling moonlight for morning coffee. But who knows? In the midst of these ancient rhythms, didn't everything carry a kind of magic? Perhaps, even in that deep, reflective silence, the trees exhaled stories, their cellulose whispering tales of olden seasons past. You smile into your thought, recalling how some believed that the quiet of winter let one hear a spirit's breath. Here, amid an endless twilight of shifting sun and moon, the carvers found not just harmony, but a deeper resonance with each other and the world. As dawn threatens the horizon, its fingers of gold hinting at the coming day, you're struck by a whimsical thought. Did those ancient carvers ever sneak a nap while the sun and moon traded places? Maybe they caught a moment of shut-eye as the perfect balance paused the world, resting amid tides at their zenith. Those power naps must have led to genius. You let your eyelids grow heavy, the world around you dissolving into a quiet hum of balance. Here, within a lodge bathed in the duality of fire and moon, you glimpse that perfect equilibrium the carver sought. The night's last breath whispers of ancient rhythms, and the promise of morning light balancing shadow with dawn. Embracing both elements, you too find a slice of that timeless harmony and feel ready to wake with the sun, your spirit echoing the tides and seasons dance. You settle deeper into the embrace of the room's quiet, feeling how effortlessly day follows night, a continuous dance neither hurried nor slow, merely aligned. Perhaps this is why ancient maps often positioned the Tlingit lands near the celestial North Star. They understood that navigation required more than landmarks. It needed the stars' immutable cycles. You think about the constellations, how they mapped both the night sky and the carvers' seasonal tasks. Remember when they said the Big Dipper was a bear chased by hunters? Astronomers confirmed that many cultures saw this pattern, but Tlingit stories had it diving into rivers, leading fish migrations. Fringe theorists argued these ancients actually tracked star patterns reflections on the water, turning astronomy into hydrology. Imagine their amusement if they heard modern myths about little green Martians instead. As whispers of dawn nip at the horizon, you recall how the celestial maps guided not just carvers, but entire nations. Historians still argue whether medieval mariners used similar star paths during oceanic ventures. Did Vikings, perhaps, consult Tlingit methods? You chuckle next. They'll be claiming extraterrestrial navigators helped plan those old longships. Underneath that shared sky, the Tlingit carvers found balance, not only in their hands, but in how they viewed humanity's place, ever humbled by the universe's ancient choreography. They believed that spirits threaded through every pulse of their world, turning each chip of wood into more than just decoration. Your own fingers curl as if resting on a forgotten chisel, feeling the ghostly weight of creation through connection. Now, with the stars fading before morning's advance, realize how that resonance wasn't just about crafting physical pieces. The carvers lived those rhythms, carving their existence into the world, making every breath part of the grand celestial ballet. Stars long dimmed by daylight still hold echoes of their wisdom, patterns we trace with wonder. dreaming about the stories captured between each flicker of light. You close your eyes, the last cool shadows retreating before dawn's arrival, and feel that perfect harmony settle within, as if you've touched the ancient skies with fingertips steeped in both wood and water. Here in this duality of ending night and birthing day, the timeless dance continues, inviting you to arise with purpose, your spirit now woven into nature's eternal cycles. You've reached that moment when the night's silence nudges you toward the daybreak, where the Tlingit carvers discovered an ancient pact with the river's pulse. This isn't just about salmon, it's about guardianship, a responsibility passed down through generations. Each glistening fish carries stories as old as the mountains, weaving through lives like threads in an ancestral tapestry. Historians still argue whether this kinship created the foundational governance structures seen in other indigenous cultures, a political system dictated by ecological rhythms. You almost chuckle thinking about those academic debates, their dry tones in sharp contrast to the living waters that shaped these societies. Some say ancient Tlingit clans even had laws requiring certain fish to be released, ensuring sustainable populations. Imagine if modern fishing fleets had CEOs debating catch quotas under the light of a campfire. The quirky truth is there are accounts of carvers placing ceremonial totems in rivers, inviting salmon to return. Modern scientists might explain this as habitat manipulation, but who's to say spiritual offerings don't carry real weight? You picture those carvers standing knee-deep in the icy currents, their carved symbols glimmer under the water's surface, almost as if the fish themselves could read their messages. There's a saying among the elders: salmon remember the places they've swum before. How fitting, considering some scholars suggest that migrating fish follow ancestral paths laid out like underwater maps. Now, that's a navigation system. Historians still debate whether similar practices influenced ancient maritime cultures. Did Polynesian navigators, perhaps, take a page from the fish they tracked? You lean back, feeling the weight of history mingling with the present. The river's rhythm, both timeless and immediate, flows through you as if each beat carries whispers from those old carvers. Their spirits speak through the rustle of leaves, through the eddies that dance around river stones. Each chisel stroke was more than artistry. It was an invocation, a plea to nature's stewards. And those totems, standing solemnly beside waterways, they weren't just guardians, they were living links, tying the carvers to their ancient pact with the river's bounty. In your mind's eye, you see a carver carefully etching symbols into cedar, symbols that mirror the salmon's scales, their iridescent dance against the dappled sunlight. Could this have been a mystical act, or practical, intended to honor and invoke the fish's return? Historians still argue whether these carvings carried magic or merely marked important catch spots. Some fringe anthropologists have even proposed these symbols were early forms of proto-writing, a stretch, perhaps, but intriguing. you find a smile creeping onto your face. Here you are, nestled between modern walls, yet feeling the same connection that stirred those ancient hands. Carving wasn't merely a craft, it was a ritual designed to echo through time, binding generations in a shared purpose. And in this rhythm, you sense not just a cultural legacy, but an enduring lesson. Balance must be struck between taking and giving. As daybreak stretches its fingers across the sky, that understanding settles within you. The salmon's journey doesn't end in the river, nor does the carver's duty fade with each set sunset. They flow onward, an unbroken chain, guiding, protecting, and forever crafting the stories of life itself. And now, as you sit here, the legacy lives on. Every breath you take carrying whispers of those long ago rhythms. You aren't just an observer, you've become a silent guardian, listening to the river's ancient songs. You drift along the edge of awareness, where twilight meets dawn, carried by the whispers of ancestral winds. Coastal breezes carry more than salt spray and distant seagulls' calls. They hold the wisdom of ages past. Each breath you take is a lesson in resilience, from towering spruces to the granite cliffs kissed by relentless tides. Here, along the Tlingit's sacred shores, even the air seems carved with intention. Historians still argue whether these coastal winds first led the Tlingit to their mastery of the sea. Some theorize coastal air patterns revealed the prime fishing grounds. Think about those ancient mariners. Did they read the breezes like seasoned sailors? Or did they rely on whispers only elders could decipher? Modern oceanographers would probably scoff at the idea, but quirky tailies suggest carvers left seashell tokens at cliff edges to invite favorable gusts. It's not so different from leaving your windows open to air out a stale room, right? Only, in their world, each element played a role in life's grand design. Imagine standing bare-chested against a northern current, feeling that air slip under your skin, bone deep. Those Tlingit carvers didn't fear the cold. They embraced it, just as they did the tides. They'd learned from observing the seabirds diving for fish, their sleek feathers parting the air with practiced ease. You almost chuckle, picturing a carver mid-chisel stroke, eyes scanning for eagle omens, because really, isn't it slightly uncanny how those birds always seem to know where the bounty lies? Did these carvers, knee-deep in frigid waters, share tales of a time when the northern lights themselves revealed future catches? That old lore still dances on the fringes of oral history, just as how some elders swore the auroras predicted storms. Modern science will say it's the solar winds colliding, but there's something to be said for the human heart that beats in rhythm with natural wonders. Historians will still debate how many ancients believed the sky itself was a living force, and perhaps they're right to ponder. As you follow the coastal path, your footsteps sync with the wave's metronome. Each crest whispers old truths, how the shorelines hold generations of stories within their grainy hands. The carvers found inspiration In these currents, they felt the ocean's breath as a ceaseless muse. Have you ever noticed how waves wash in like gentle heartbeats? In some fringe folklore, there's a story about how the Tlingit elders once believed each wave carried an ancient ancestor's sighs, eternal, guiding breaths. Could that be poetic exaggeration, or a living memory of the first canoes that grazed these waters? You pause, feeling the spray mist your face, salty and grounding. These coastal breezes did more than just cool the skin. They cooled minds and inflamed spirits. Carving here wasn't just an act performed. It was a ritual invoked by the very elements themselves. Each chisel stroke was a conversation with the earth, a negotiation, if you will. Imagine that notion. We joke about compromising with the weather, but they truly sought balance with each gust and gale. In that spirit, you think of the carvers standing under towering totems, their shadows long against the beach sand, listening, chisels in hand. Those pillars bore spirit guardians, each line and curve infused with meanings modern linguists still grapple to decode. Perhaps they etched gratitude for safe returns, or perhaps they carved warnings against the hubris of overfishing. Historians still argue whether these carvings were protective talismans or simple storytelling. It's an unsolved narrative puzzle pieced together across generations. Take a deep breath as you let this ancient rhythm infuse your senses. Stand as they did, feeling the breeze through your core. The Tlingit's coastal whispers, they weren't just winds whispering, they were teachings, passing lessons older than the trees that rooted around them. And here you are, inhaling the last breaths of this dawn, forevermore a silent traveler in their eternal dance with the sea. Their stories continue through those gusts, flowing with each stroke of a chisel, each journey of a salmon, each rise and fall of these ancient tides. And as the coastal breeze weaves through the fibers of cedar wood and saltwater soul, you find yourself part of this continuum, a steward listening to the eternal breath of your ancestors. The lesson resides in that breeze, guiding each chisel strike, each tide, and every story carved into the bones of this wild, untamed world. You stand on this ancient ground, each footstep synchronizing with the symphony of seasons. Winter's chill recedes, awakening dormant riverbeds, while spring's breath ushers forth life, each moment woven into a living mosaic. The Tlingit carvers understood this deeply. Their every stroke resonated with nature's orchestrated flow. There's a legend, some might call it fringe folklore, about how early carvers would bury a strand of their own hair in the base of each totem pole, tying themselves metaphysically to their creations. Sounds a bit like claiming your artwork today, but with an ethereal family tree involved. As the year unfurls, summer's warmth embraces the land, and salmon carve their way upstream, a golden flash bursting the surface like heartbeats. The carvers mirrored this dance with their own tools, etching life's journey into cedar. Historians still debate Whether these seasonal synchronicities were sacred ritual or mere coincidence. Could the tides aligning with creative bursts be a mere accident, or an ancient truth we're only now rediscovering? Seasons blend together, forming harmonies that echo across generations. Each phase, spring's birth, summer's blaze, autumn's reflection, winter's dormancy, mirrors the rhythm found in the totems themselves. Modern science recognizes these cycles as part of circannual rhythms, though the Tlingit likely experienced this as life's breath rather than textbook biology. Ever notice how our mood shifts with weather? They claimed they could taste the moon's phases in river water. Poetic, perhaps, or maybe a deeper connection science hasn't quite decoded. Listen closely, and you'll hear stories that sing through time. Each carver became a living instrument, tuning their craft to the seasons' endless cadence. They'd pause, as you do now, watching the interplay of light and shadow across water and wood, a living score unfolding. Picture that. Chisel in hand, they awaited not just the salmon's return, but the wind's whisper, the rain's tempo, the sun's embrace. Carving was a concert, performed in harmony with the earth's symphony. You turn toward the encroaching autumn, noticing how leaves flutter in time with the whispering pines. The forest breathes its own melody, one that historians still argue whether ancient peoples considered a form of sacred communication. To them, did every rustle narrate a tale, each gust a guide? We might smile at it today, but perhaps there's comfort in believing nature itself guides our paths. Each breath a note in an ancient song. As nights lengthen and daylight wanes, you feel the years pulse slow. The carvers work, like the world around them, adapted, their hands moved slower, yet with deeper intention, mirroring the tide's own rhythm. Ever wonder why ancient artifacts feel richer in autumn? Maybe it's because this season holds a certain wisdom, completion through change. As trees shed their leaves, the carvers shed distractions, focusing only on what remained essential. In this twilight hour between seasons, you reflect on their dance with time. They understood every swing of the axe, every chip of wood, every flowing curve were notes in the earth's grand symphony. Each carving told a story, each tool a voice, and in this blend of wind, water, and wood, their wisdom remains timeless. You take a deep breath, feeling the world within your lungs, seasons flowing, stories echoing. You walk forward into the deepening dusk, each footstep resonating with the continuum of life's grand score, where every breath you take whispers the rhythms of old and new, of land and of sea. And as the breeze caresses the carved stories, still standing against time, you realize you're part of this great symphonic journey, guided, ever listening, endlessly inspired. As you step further into the deepening dusk, you feel the evening air wrapping around you like an old cedar blanket that's seen dozens of seasons. The carvers of old once believed that the chill in the air carried whispered stories of ancestors returning to guide the autumn harvest. Modern folks might dismiss it as a poetic fancy. Yet, there's something reassuring in thinking each breeze might carry wisdom from those who came before us. Autumn in this coastal land isn't merely about change. It's the culmination of ancient rhythms, nature's yearly heartbeat. The great salmon migration reaches its peak during this season, their bodies glinting silver gold as they surge upstream. Picture this cascade of life, a living river of scales. Historians still argue whether early Tlingit carvers would hold ceremonial feasts specifically timed to the first major salmon run. Some say they did, others, with furrowed brows over dusty tomes, argue it was purely practical, born out of necessity. But you know, necessity and ritual often dance together in the same circle of life. Carvers' hands pause with reverence during these times. They don't just carve, they converse with the spirit of the cedar. Intricate stories emerge from the wood, legends that historians say symbolize the cyclical nature of life and death. Fringe stories go further, claiming some carvings could summon the salmon's essence to guide future generations. Sounds far-fetched. Maybe, but aren't our modern-day superstitions often rooted in similar desires to control what's uncontrollable? You stand on the riverbank now, feeling the pulse of the water, its current matching the rhythm of your breath. This isn't purely poetic nostalgia. Modern studies show that our physiological responses can sync with natural rhythms. Ever notice how you feel more vibrant on sunny days or lethargic when storms brew? Our bodies respond to these ancient cues, perhaps harder than we give ourselves credit for. The Tlingit may have felt this symbiotic link more viscerally. Carving wasn't merely a craft. It was an act of becoming one with the world's heartbeat. As night deepens, you watch the stars make their silent parade across the sky. It's not just a pretty sight. This celestial choreography sets the calendar for Tlingit life. Night skies guide not just the fisherman, but the woodsmith who sees a parallel in patterns of constellations, and the swirling designs he etches into cedar. Historians still debate whether certain celestial alignments directly influenced the themes in totem pole carvings. Could there be an astronomical roadmap underlying those intricate figures? Maybe we're too quick to dismiss old stories of talking stars. Look to the trees now, their branches casting long, intricate shadows over root-bound trails. Here, in the quiet before the frost bites, you can almost hear the hum of ancient hands at work, each stroke resonating with the season's eternal song. They say some Tlingit carvers would make offerings to the forest before starting, a way of asking for both permission and protection. It might seem like a quaint remnant of primitive belief, yet who among us today hasn't felt the sanctity of nature's silent cathedral? Your footsteps create a soft rhythm as you walk, mimicking the cyclical tides. Carvings speak to this. Life as a series of cycles within cycles. Each wave that rolls in isn't just water. It's a heartbeat, a part of the same pulse that draws the salmon back, that pulls the moon across the night sky. The carvers felt it deep in their marrow, life's ebb and flow reflected in their own hands and tools. Is there any wonder why their work resonates across centuries, touching something elemental in each one of us today? When you pause by a totem pole, its silent stories reach you across ages. Each spiral and curve captures a piece of migratory magic, a season's turn, an ancestral whisper. We might think of ancient cultures as separate from us. They were so other. Yet, isn't there a fundamental thread that links us to these old artisans? Historians might continue debating how much symbolism was deliberate. But really, isn't it enough to know that these carvings speak to our shared humanity? Feel the cool breeze again, brushing against skin, carrying the murmurs of leaves and water, whispering stories from time immemorial. The river knows these tales too, carrying them forward as surely as its currents bring new life each year. And as you breathe in the crisp night air, you realize that you, too, are a part of this continuum, tuned to nature's ancient song, guided by the rhythms we've always known, but sometimes forget in our rush through life. You turn once more, ready to continue walking, each step an echo of the carvers before you. With each breath, you carry forward their wisdom, their reverence for nature's cycles, their understanding of the heartbeat that links us all. And in that timeless pulse, beneath every carving, across every river, through every breath, you are forever connected to the rhythm of the world. As the night deepens, time feels fluid, each moment a breath suspended between past and present. Listen to the river, its whispers now a soothing balm, blending seamlessly with the cool night breeze. It carries a gentle promise, the pulse of life enduring across seasons, connecting hands across the river of time. Your senses float easily on the currents of the evening, where each rustle and ripple forms a woven cradle of calm. The stars, oh, how they shine tonight, twinkling like old friends gathered to share stories. Think of the constellations not as distant celestial bodies, but as glowing embers guiding you into serenity. Let your feet tread the earth lightly, feeling the grounding of each step, the roots of the trees breathing steadiness up from the deep. Here, it's not just a pathway, it's a living dialogue between you and the ancients who walked here before. Each impression a verse in a lullaby to the soul. Feel the wood of a totem pole beneath your fingertips, silent stories woven into each grain. Imagine their wisdom seeping into you, a slow, comforting glow. Ancestors, nature, and the craft of carvers all speak in whispers tonight, assuring you you're part of a grand, eternal cycle. Each breath you take is a shared note in an age-old melody. The cool breeze brushes by, a final caress from the world. It holds the whispers of leaves, water, and old tales flowing through time. Breathe deeply, inhale the timeless essence of peace. Listen to the river one last time. It carries their voices, their dreams, their unwavering faith in the rhythm still guiding us all. Let the images soften in your mind now, fading like the last echo of a long song. The river's song, the dance of cedar, the timeless sky, all blending into a serene night's melody. Let go, letting the rhythm of the world gently hold you as you drift between dreams. And as you slip into serene rest, know this: you are never alone, forever bound to the river's eternal flow, the silent strength of trees, the whisper of stars. Sleep safe, wrapped in the embrace of ancient wisdom.